The following is a presentation of Sertoba Media and Comey Media Incorporated. Some home teams were in the giving spirit, and we're not even at Christmas yet. This is Total Football Talk. Welcome to Total Football Talk. Hard-hitting grind, news, and fun the way you like it. I am one of the co-hosts of this program, Cole Johnson, a.k.a. the EP of all EPs, the mad scientist and EP extraordinaire. And I am joined, as always, by the other co-host of this program, who I don't know, let's see, Mr. Commander's Grind Report, Mr. D. Willie in the evening, another show that I am hoping it comes back soon. But you know him as the D. Willie Bucks man. That's right. D. Willie, a.k.a. Drew Willingham. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well out here in the streams this morning. My favorite day of the week is back, that being Total Football Talk Day. Looking forward to getting through these great slate of games that we had this past weekend.
I love that. Total Football Talk Day. That's how I'm going to look at Tuesdays from now on. I like that. Oh, yeah. All right. Well, if you can't wait to get started, I can't either. Here we go. Opening drive time.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On two. Ready? Break.
So, as you are well aware, Drew's Commanders and the Arizona Cardinals were on a bye this past Sunday, Thursday, or Monday. That would be the Cardinals and the Commanders. They had byes this past Monday. So you will not get an epic, well, you might get an epic rant considering things always happen around the DC area, but you won't get an epic rant in terms of how they played on the field.
During hour 3, you will get an epic rant as we preview this upcoming game, this upcoming weekend. But yes, it was great to have the weekend off from that monstrosity of play we've been seeing all year long. But besides talking football, I'm definitely excited to be here with you there, brother, as we got some great games to talk about besides the Dumpster Pelican week off that they had.
And to join us as well, VLock83, Victor Lock or Vicala. It is good to see you, my man. He says, good morning once again to the EP of all EPs, Cole Johnson, and the big game owner of Dumpster Pelicans worldwide, Sensei Drew Willingham. Our brother Snowman, hey, and prayers out to you, man. I'm glad that you are up, about, and well and healing. That's cool. And look forward to seeing you. Well, I'll tell you off air. Okay. And Mick, what's up, brother? He says, good morning, my brothers. Good morning to you. I hope everything is well with you, and I hope everything is well with you. All right, so we got the teams that are on the byes out the way. Here's the Thursday night. Actually, no. We're going to save that for later. I don't know why. But let's get to the Sunday action. So the Falcons hosted the Buccaneers, and it was a nip and tuck game. The lead shifted all throughout the game. In the end, though, the Bucs took it 29-25. I guess the star of the game to me would be Rachaad White, who gave you 102 yards on 25 carries, and that was 102 of the 148 yards that the Bucs gained on the ground. Baker Mayfield, who you will hear the nickname come about another minute from now, 14 of 29, 144 yards and 2 touchdowns. On the losing end, Desmond Ridder, he threw for 347 yards of 26 of 40, gave you a touchdown and a pick. Drake London received 172 of those 347 yards through the air on 10 receptions. Your thoughts on this game, sir?
This game in particular, with Tampa Bay hanging in there to get this victory right here, it's definitely a very tough game.
Mm-hmm.
The one that I like to call Bunker Stayfield definitely was in this game, kept this team in this game, but he threw, like you said, for a very abysmal 144 passing yards. Yeah, he threw for 2 touchdowns, but, on top of his 14 completions, he had 15 incompletions. If you have 15 incompletions, you do not deserve to win the game, which Artie Smith definitely almost led that team towards having a victory when he only lost by 4. Now, Drake London, definitely a big reason why they were in that game, being the Falcons, kept that team in the game with 172 receiving yards, averaging over 17 yards per catch as he had 10 receptions on that day. So he is definitely going to be a bona fide stud in the future. Definitely is throwing flashes very early in his career to show that he is very special, a very special talent that we could see, but just didn't quite have enough to get it done. When I look at the overall highlights from this game, you got to look at, Kyle Pitts along with Drake London, as Kyle Pitts at that 36-yard touchdown pass that he hauled in order to help the Falcons tie the game up at 10 early on, within it being the second quarter going into halftime. As if it wasn't for the safety that the Bucs had, they wouldn't have had that 2-point lead, but those 2 points definitely carried over towards the second half and helped that team get the win. I'd have to say, along with Cade Otton's 11-yard touchdown reception, I'd have to give Rachaad White as another boost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the biggest reason why they got the win. It wasn't on Bunker Stayfield this weekend. It was the pieces around him that helped elevate that team towards a victory.
There we go. Yes, I agree with you. It looks like when Rachaad White is active in the offense for the Buccaneers, that seems to be what helps them out. Although Mayfield still can't throw accurately. But with all that being said, now we have a pickle at the top of the NFC South, if you want to call it the top. You have the Buccaneers, the Falcons, and the Saints. And of course, we'll talk about them in a minute or a little while. All of them are ensconced with a 6-7 record with 4 games to go in the regular season to decide who is going to be the best of the worst in the NFC South. But credit to the Bucs. They needed that victory. And, the Falcons held on to first place for a minute. They ain't holding on to it now. Well. Now, this isn't for the game. This is actually for one of the teams I'm about to introduce. Lions went to Shoulder Field. They went to Chicago, play the Bears. The Bears almost got them in Detroit. They did get them in Chicago, 28-13. Justin Fields gave you 19-33 through the air, 223 yards and a touchdown. He did carry the ball 12 more times on the ground for 58 yards and another touchdown. The Bears offense, they gave you 142 yards on the ground. They also gave you on defense 4 sacks, two INTs, and a fumble recovery. Jared Goff for the losing Lions, 20-35 for 161 yards, a touchdown, and not one but two picks, with the Lions offense gaining 140 yards on the ground. Your thoughts on this game, sir?
You had it definitely right with the bowling shoe ugly. As going into halftime, the Lions were up 13-10. I mean, going into halftime, we didn't see it to go spiral out of control to the to the magnitude of what it did. Looking at this game right here, from the second half on, the Lions didn't score at all. They were shut out during that second half, as you had two field goals by Cairo Santos, DJ Moore 38-yard touchdown haul-in, and a Justin Fields 11-yard touchdown scramble to help take the Bears to a 28-13 win, as they would score 18 unanswered points in that second half. Looking at this right here, we've been talking about the Lions all season long, about how they were contenders and Man Campbell and biting off kneecaps. Well, I think that in this past weekend's contest, they were exposed and definitely labeled now, in my opinion, as pretenders. They're not contenders anymore. Looking at Jared Goff and what he did when you're playing against the Bears, who are more infamous this season for having two picks in the top 5. Well, maybe not anymore after this past win this weekend, and if they continue to win throughout the remainder of the final month of the season. But when you have the Bears, who have been labeled as dumpster pelicans throughout the first early half of the season, and then you go in there to Chicago and you lay an egg to the point that you did. Oh, wait, no, my bad. You were at home. My apologies. Even worse. So, no, you actually did go to Chicago. I was wrong twice when I was right the first time.
Well, they almost laid an egg in Detroit, but yes.
Yes. Well, there you go. But when you do what you did, whether you're on the road or you're at home, you had a 3-point lead going into halftime. And you come out and you got all this hype around you, biting off kneecaps and being great. And you play a team like you did in the Chicago Bears, and you lay an egg in the second half. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Oh man, I don't get the Lions. This I would have thought they would have played with a bigger sense of urgency with 3 reasons. One, you got the Packers to a lesser degree, and the Vikings nipping at your heels. You're trying to get the best seeding that you possibly could, considering that the 3 teams that are ahead of you are they seem to be playing okay. When I group all 3 of them together, I say okay. One's playing great, one's playing okay, and one's playing eh. But you also had this team Sunday before Thanksgiving push you too close to a defeat, and it took you 2 touchdowns late to win that game. So you would think, okay, well, we got to prove to this team that, they weren't as good as we made them out to be, but you did when you played them again. Oh, my goodness. Come on, Lions. I know this is a learning year for you, but you got to do better than this. This team you should put away. And this is what happens when you just roll the helmets on the field and think that's good enough. Remember, every pro athlete gets paid and they put on the pants one leg at a time, just like you do. Sometimes I guess you need games like that to remind you of that.
And they looked like they were the type of team that they needed their mommies to put their pants on for them.
True with the mic drop. I love it. I love that one. The Indianapolis Colts, yes, I'm saying it like someone that we both love would. They traveled to Cincy, that's not too far from Indy, to play the Bengals, and at Paycor, the Colts paid the price to the tune of 34-14. Jake Browning, coming off of that wonderful Monday night effort, a pretty good effort here, 18-24, 275 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Gardner Minshew, 26-39, 240 yards, gave you a touchdown. He also gave you a pick. Michael Pittman Jr., who has been showing some signs of life as of late, 8 receptions, 95 yards for the Colts. Your thoughts on this game, sir?
Uncle Rico showed up a little bit. He definitely threw 240 yards, touchdown, interception, but it just wasn't enough. As a little bit doesn't get you far in the NFL, as it only got you 14 points. Looking at this game right here, Jake Browning has definitely been showing up for the Cincinnati Bengals team as the backup quarterback. I mean, there's not many backup quarterbacks in the league this year that I can think of that are having the magnitude of success as Jake Browning. I mean, of course, you got a couple other names that we can throw in there. They're not going to be as big of a backup playing great as Brock Purdy coming in as a third string quarterback last year. Okay, so I'm not going to throw but so much hype around. And of course, you got, Joe Flacco coming off the street and doing what he did for the Browns, which we'll get to here shortly. But other than that, and Zach Wilson, there's really nobody else that comes to mind that's playing the backup quarterback position. That's, their guaranteed backup guy. Of course, we've seen Josh Dobbs have flashes this year coming off the street, and we've seen Joe Flacco. And Zach Wilson has been the roller coaster of what Zach Wilson has always been in New York until this past weekend, which we'll touch up on that a little bit. But Jake Browning coming in, looking like somewhat of a clone of Joe Burrow, playing on this team throughout different points. Yeah, he's had some moments here and there where he's had some hiccups, but that's the reason why he's the backup quarterback, okay? But overall, he's playing some pretty great football as a backup there for Cincinnati, keeping them alive in the playoff race as well. Something that's very exciting to watch. I know we've got some other Cinderella-like stories when it comes to backups, but this one in particular is the type of story that I could see getting a win in the first round of the playoffs.
And considering the upper portion of the AFC, that is not out of the realm possibility. So yeah, kudos to Jake Browning. I mean, two back-to-back clutch efforts, and you just got to give credit to him. I mean, he's not just keeping the ship afloat; he actually is making a couple plays too, and I just I give my credit to him. I got to tip my cap to him. I mean, he's doing what he's supposed to do, even more as a backup quarterback. And you said it best. There's times I look at him and I forget, oh, that's right, Burrow is hurt. Because he's moving an offense like Joe Burrow would. I'm like, oh, wow, okay.
Vic.
Ouch, Sensei. Just ouch.
I had to when I saw it.
Oh my gosh. Yes, yeah. I love this, Drew. Man, I need this more often. I like this. All right. So from Southwest Ohio to Northeast Ohio, the Browns hosted the Jaguars. The Browns coming in at 8-4. I'm sorry, 7-5. The Jaguars coming in 8-4. The Jaguars and the Browns, they leave Cleveland Stadium both with 8-5 records because the Browns beat them 31-27. Joe Flacco, as he said, as my partner said, off the street, 26-45, 311 yards, 3 touchdowns and 9 TD. Really solid game from him. David Njoku, 6 receptions, 91 yards, 2 of those 3 touchdowns. The Browns defense, studs, 4 sacks, 3 INTs on a fumble recovery, and just made life all sorts of trouble for Trevor Lawrence. 28 of 50, 257 yards, 3 touchdowns, and of course we mentioned the 3 INTs. Evan Ingram was pretty much the guy that kept the Jaguars in it. 11 receptions, 95 yards, and 2 touchdowns from the tight end. Your thoughts on this game?
The biggest thing that happened after the game was the fact that Joe Flacco is back on the practice squad for the Browns. Yep. Give the man some money for the final few weeks of the season, because if you are this close to making a playoff run and having a piece somewhat like what the Baltimore Ravens had in 2013 and in the year 2000 for both of their Super Bowls, having some type of game manager back there that can orchestrate the offense well enough to get you a win, 4 consecutive times if need be to play in the wild card round to get to the Super Bowl and win. Very possible with what Joe Flacco did in this past weekend. You know, there's been several times that I and myself, other people out there have called him Joe Fluco, as he has had some fluke-like moments. But to throw for 311 yards, 3 touchdowns, I mean, the only 2 bad things he had was 19 incompletions and an interception throughout the entire game. I'd have to say David Njoku was definitely a huge part of his success on that game. 6 receptions, 91 yards, and 2 of those 3 touchdowns that Joe Flacco threw. So if it wasn't for David Njoku, we wouldn't be talking about Joe Flacco on this day like we are and have been over the past 2 days, had it not been for his great player right there. Browns defense also wasn't any slouching at all on that side. 4 sacks, 3 interceptions, and a fumble recovery. You know, and another part too, that the reason why they got those 3 interceptions because of Trevor Lawrence being inaccurate and throwing them right to the defenders. A hot mess over there for Jacksonville. In Jacksonville, we've been talking about as contenders, but if they play another game like that, I can't throw so much shade on Jacksonville because of the type of defense that they faced. I mean, we were talking about the Browns defense being as elite as they are, and the reason why the reason why they're still in the hunt for the playoffs is because of that defense right there. So I can't throw so much shade on Jacksonville, but I can throw a little bit of shade on Trevor Lawrence because of all the hype on him. You know, I don't want to speak ill of people with hair because we all know of my situation, but you need to do a better job of representing people with hair with your decision making because if not, it looks like you're batting 420.
I'm going to leave that alone.
Good. You didn't have an answer.
Batting 420. Lord have mercy. Oh, goodness. The New Orleans Saints. They were at home playing the Panthers. Batting 420. My bad. This wasn't even a contest at all. I mean, the Panthers. 28-6 was the final score, and it wasn't even that close. Derek Carr. The winning quarterback, 18-26, 119 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an INT. The Saints defense basically were the stars of this show, 4 sacks and 2 fumble recoveries. But the Panthers offense, although they were putrid, they weren't on the ground, gaining 204 yards rushing. And then Bryce Young, 13 of 36, 137 yards. Your thoughts on this game, sir?
It was definitely not the greatest of games to watch. When you look at the New Orleans Saints and with what they did in this game, you know, Derek Carr getting 2 touchdowns and an interception, I can't get but so excited about this considering the man only threw for 119 yards. Okay. You know, Derek Carr, the games that we had seen from him in a Raiders uniform, we were more accustomed to him throwing over 300 yards a game.
Right.
Somewhere along the way, Derek Carr has been broken. And I'm not sure if it's on the coaching that's around him. And I'm not sure if it's even physical because it's not like you forget how to throw for 300 yards. I think part of it's mental. And the other part is the pieces that are around him because he was throwing for over 300 yards before he had Javonte Adams. He was still throwing for over 300 yards a game over there at Oakland, Las Vegas, whatever you want to call him at the times that he had played for him. So I think part of it is this is the beginning of the end for Derek Carr because it's kind of like the yips in baseball. Like when you forget to throw a baseball out there, this is like the football version of the yips is what I feel like I'm seeing from Derek Carr. Congratulations on the win, but you're not going to keep getting wins if you're playing to this magnitude per game.
Could not say that better if I tried. Well, the only bright spot about this is the Saints do improve to 6-7. They are in the playoff hunt. They can get a wild card as well, but the same can be said about the Falcons and the Bucs, although the Bucs technically are leading the NFC South with the 6-7 mark, basically because they have beaten the Falcons and the Saints, and neither team could beat the Bucs. And there's a couple other teams that are 6-7 as well. So a lot of fingers crossing. However, with performances like this, the Saints won't go far because they need to have Carr perform a lot better than this and a lot better than he has all year long. I mean, you could say, okay, well, yeah, he had an efficient game and he didn't really throw the ball all over the place. That's good. But you got to Taysom Hill do this and you'll be fine. That is not what they need. That's not why they brought him to New Orleans for. Not for stats like this.
If he keeps playing like this, we're going to have to summon this other person to do this.
Delete! 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 Delete!
Yeah. Yeah. And the Saints will be saying that too, probably with the same fervor and passion as Matt Hardy. Oh my gosh.
I knew it was coming.
The
I was wondering when we were going to bring that in. It's been too long.
Oh, I love that ampness. I love that. The Houston Texans are in the playoff race. However, with their performance on Sunday,
We gotta pause that. Where did that come from?
they went to the Meadowlands favored, and they went out with their butts whooped 30-6. The Jets destroyed them. I'll get to what really irks me about this game after I do the stats. Zach Wilson, easily the best performance of the year, probably one of the best performances of his NFL career. And I'm not saying it just like the Texans. That's just the truth. 27-36, 301 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did have a lost fumble, though. Garrett Wilson, who has been pretty much the stalwart figure on offense for them, 9 receptions, 108 yards. He also had another carry for 3 yards. Breece Hall, although on the ground he only gave you 10 carries for 40 yards, through the air he was more damaging with 8 receptions, 86 yards, and a touchdown. And the Jets defense destroys CJ Stroud, sacked him 4 times, sacked Davis Mills another time. 5 sacks on the day, and CJ Stroud. If 10 of 23, 91 yards, he didn't turn the ball over. But unfortunately, he now is in concussion protocol. Nico Collins, who now is over 1,000 yards, a rookie wide receiver, he's out as well. But the Texans allowed the Jets to score 30 points in the second half. Your thoughts, sir?
Zachary Capono Wilson showed up in this game. I actually get to say the word Capono again and say it in a positive
manner.
way.
Mm-hmm.
For him to come into this game and do what he did after basically where you've been hearing reports of, I don't want to play football in New York anymore. It's basically what I was hearing when I was reading stuff on the internet. I'm reading stuff and I'm seeing Zachary Capono Wilson in my mind going, I don't want to play in New York anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. And then he comes out there and he does what he does like a Capono. Comes out there, likes a Capono, and lights it up. He earned his name, Capono, in his game as he came out there and threw for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, what a Capono does not do is they do not fumble the football. And that's what Capono did in this game. He fumbled the football. And they only won by 24 points. Had you not fumbled the football, you might have won by more. So stop being a non-Capono, be a Capono, and get wins out there for the Jets so your guy, Aaron Rodgers, can come in there against the Commies and light them up on a bad wheel, because that's what he's going to try to do to keep the season and his career alive. But good job, Capono. I had to give you the clap, and the good version of the clap, for what you did out there as a Capono.
Stop it. Get some help.
I can't top the clap. Oh, good Lord. Wait a minute. How could I do this justice? Oh yeah, here we go. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, for the first time ever, the daily double of double bowling shoe ugly double dumpster fire of a game between the Vikings and the homebound Las Vegas Raiders. 3-0 was the final score. The Vikings won this game. It was played indoors on grass, and there was nothing faulty with the grounds. Nothing was faulty with the field. So you couldn't blame it on the weather. You couldn't blame it on faulty groundskeeping conditions. This was just a poorly played game. Vikings defense, 4 sacks and a pick. Vikings offense gave you 99 passing yards. The Raiders defense gave you 5 sacks with Max Crosby gave you 2 of them. And Aiden O'Connell had a representative of an offensive day. 21 of 32, 171 yards, and an INT. Your thoughts, sir? Oh, yeah, I think we've seen the birth of Bizarro Drew too.
Yeah, as the bizarroness made sure I was muted for that one. But when it comes into this statement game at hand, when you're looking at 3-0 game, I mean, I was reaching out to Cole Johnson on Sunday. It was saying how terrible of a game this game was. You know, you got to look at the fact of, I know he was upset about what the Texans did, but at least they scored more points in the entirety of that game for the Texans
than the two teams combined here.
2 teams combined in this matchup right here. So looking at this right here, 99 total yards for the Vikings offense. I mean, I know you're missing Kirk Cousins, but you shouldn't be missing him that much there. And the defense right there, if it wasn't for the defense on your side, you wouldn't have even gotten the win.
No.
Because you had 4 sacks and an interception. Mm-hmm. Now, the Raiders, I know that they've been going through a bunch of turmoil. You got a different head coach. AP's been coming in, cleaning up some of the turmoil within the locker room, and all that stuff. But he's a defensive-minded coach. So, as he played defense. So, for their team to only give up 3 points, I can't really get mad at the Raiders. However, this offense really needs to be overhauled during the offseason, because when you're playing a team like the Vikings, who only mustered 99 offensive yards, and they win the game by 3, that just goes to show that it's mainly your offense that's the problem over there in Las Vegas, and you need to do something to fix it. I'm trying to do as much as I can to live up to all the graphics and the transitions that Cole Johnson played when he was up here. I'm having a hard time, but I'm doing the best I can. But I'm going to give him this segment as that one is. He crushed it with those segments.
Thank you. I'm sorry. This game was, yes, double bowling shoe, ugly, double dumpster fire. I mean, yeah, it was just horrible. And yes, Victor, I'm sure McCoffey or Ryan McCarthy of No Credentials Acquired fame, I'm sure he was wearing his Elton John glasses on the ivories and on the ebonies and ivories singing Benny and the Jets. Yes, I'm sure he was doing that.
McCoffey has Elton John glasses.
Benny and the Jets.
All I gotta say to that.
That's terrible.
And if you think that you're gonna find me wearing the same glasses,
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, to the no, no.
and if I ever come across a thought that makes me want to do that, this is what's gonna happen to that thought.
Delete, 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 delete.
More power to you, McCoffey. I just cannot do it.
The thought is hilarious. Ryan McCarthy looking like Elton John. That is hilarious. All right. The 49ers played host to the divisional rival Seattle Seahawks. Let's be honest. The 49ers basically were just playing the Seahawks. 28-16, the final score. They let the Seahawks hang around for about 2.5 quarters before they said, okay, this game is ours. Get out of our building. Brock Purdy, again, efficient. 19 of 27, 368 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did throw a pick. Christian McCaffrey, on the ground, he gave you 145 yards and 16 carries. He also gave you another reception for 8. Deebo Samuel, he gave you a carry for a yard and a touchdown, but 7 receptions, 149 yards, and another receiving touchdown. Brandon Ayuk, not to be outdone, 6 receptions, 126 yards. He did have a lost fumble, though. The 49ers defense, not to be outdone by the offensive output, 4 sacks and 2 picks. Drew Lock, who subbed in for an injured Geno Smith, 22 of 31, did pretty decent, actually. 269 yards, 2 touchdowns. Unfortunately, he gave you 2 picks, too. And Tyler Lockett, 6 receptions, 89 yards. Yeah, your thoughts on this game, sir?
Well, it looks like Drew was unlocked in this game as he has been locked out for quite some time. When you think about what he did in Denver and then being traded, okay? You've been unlocked. You were locked down. Now you are unlocked in this game. Now, were you unlocked good enough to get the dub? No, you were not unlocked enough. You probably needed some more WD-40 to turn that lock a little bit more to be completely unlocked. You were somewhat broken, as my man who says this would say.
Delete, 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 delete.
And if you're not careful enough, that's what's going to happen to your NFL career if you don't keep consistent with being unlocked. That is why you are a backup quarterback and why your team got the loss in this game, because they're not unlocked as a unit. Now, looking at the 49ers and what they did, there's no question to how great they are this year, and they are definitely contenders. Looking at Brock Purdy, only 8 incompletions on 27 attempts for 368 yards, 2 touchdowns, and the 1 INT. Christian McCaffrey is still going off with 16 carries, 145 yards. Now,
People sleeping on him.
But, you know, going up to last year, you kind of had a reason to sleep on Christian McCaffrey a little bit because the type of injuries, the amount he was banged up. There's not many running backs that have been banged up to the magnitude as Christian McCaffrey has been. playing on the type of teams that Christian McCaffrey has played on, and having this type of a 180 career resurgence. Because you see players starting off their career pretty great, but when it comes to the running back position, that's the one position in football where you cannot afford to really have injuries, because it's going to shorten your career. By this point in Christian McCaffrey's career, based on the trajectory of the last 2 to 3 seasons, how they were going in Carolina, he should be out of football by now. He should be out of football or a shell of himself. Instead, the 49ers are getting the best version of Christian McCaffrey this season I think we've seen in his entire career. That goes to not only the talent of the entire team, but that goes to show how great of a coach Kyle Shanahan has become. They deserve to make it to the Super Bowl this year and win it. Not for the majority of their fan base, because they still upset me, but when it comes to the 49ers as a whole, the team deserves it, and I think that they're paying dividends on how much preparation they have definitely been doing off the field, and it's showing in games like this.
Yes, I know that unfortunately with the rise of the 49ers will be the rise of 90 Nations bragging, and people will be saying this to them more so than Cowboys fan.
Let's get ready to rumble!
And for you to say Drew was on lot. You had to go to pun route. Oh, my.
Well, Mick, I took it easy on you.
Oh, yes. And Mick, as he said, you can call him out on his beloved Seahawks taking the L to the 49ers Sunday.
I can't go so hard on the Seahawks because, I mean, they didn't get mollywopped in that game. I mean, they still kept it fairly competitive.
They actually played better here than they did in Seattle. Yeah. They actually played better here than they did on Thanksgiving when they faced the 49ers. So, yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Goodness gracious. Now, I'm not doing this for the game. I'm doing this for the post-game reaction. The Bills and the Chiefs renew, well, that's not necessarily hostilities, because I don't think they're hostile toward each other, but competitive, I think, would be better. They renewed competitive juices once again at Arrowhead, and this was the Bills' game for the most part, but the Chiefs fought back. They tied it at 17. The Bills edge ahead 20-17, and then we see a pass to Kelsey, who threw a backwards pass to Kadarius Toney, and the Chiefs win it 24-20.
Delete!
Well, that's what the ref said, because Mr. Toney, who was the recipient of the backwards pass, lined off all sides. And because of that, the Chiefs take yet another (20-17). Josh Allen, 23 of 42, 233 yards, a touchdown and a pick. He gave you 10 carries also for 32 yards and a rushing touchdown. James Cook, decent on the ground, 10 carries, 58 yards, but through the air he gave you more more production, 5 receptions, 83 yards, and a receiving touchdown. Patrick Mahomes, 25 of 43, 271 yards, a touchdown and a pick, another carry for 8 yards as well for him. And Travis Kelce, 6 receptions, 83 yards, came close to having something else on his stat sheet, but unfortunately, you have number 89 of your own team to thank. Your thoughts on this one, sir?
Kadarius Toney cost him that game.
Yes.
The Chiefs.
Yes, he did.
He took a game where the Chiefs were playing pretty well overall, and basically, in the words of Ryan Clark, played like complete doggy do in this game.
I love it.
Because you have to look especially that play that Kelsey made. I
Mhm.
mean, that play, that's why Mahomes was so animated afterwards,
Yeah.
because that type of play is the highlight that you put on your highlight reel when you're getting inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Right.
Okay.
Mhm.
And Kelsey's career up to this point, 2 Super Bowls, and the way the guy has played throughout his career, he's definitely a lock for the Hall of Fame, unless something, unless he does something completely stupid between now and the end of his career, which I don't think is going to happen because of how him and his brother have carried themselves throughout the shield of the NFL and beyond. They're gonna. He's definitely a lock to get in. And I felt for him on that play, because when I saw that before the flag came out, I was like, yeah, that's like your number one highlight right there. Because
it would be.
You're not even scoring the touchdown, but the presence of mind to have that awareness. And he wasn't even facing him. It was like peripheral vision.
Yeah.
In like the smallest corner of peripheral vision is he seeing him, and Kelsey flings it backwards, catches it, touchdown. Next thing you know is flag. And I'm not even a fan of the Chiefs.
Me neither.
And we've seen them win a lot over the past few years. But whoever, in my mind, in that moment, because I know exactly who cost them the penalty at that moment, but in that moment, I wanted to deck whoever it was that cost them that play, because that was a great play out of everything we've seen.
It was.
Mahomes doing some magician-like things in the backfield, flinging the ball around over the past few seasons to get them to where they've been. That play was probably my favorite play that's not even a play, because of the penalty taking it away.
Yeah.
So for Kadarius Toney to play like doggy do and cost this Chiefs the game, you should be ashamed of yourself, because it's like you seemed like you tried to fill that void for Tyreek Hill, you being Kadarius Toney,
right?
And you are not even going to come anywhere close, as Mahomes has to rely on the entirety of his offense now, rather than plugging in Tyreek Hill as 33% of the offense. So there's a lot more he has to rely on the offense as a whole. There's no way Kadarius Toney will ever fill that void of Tyreek Hill, and especially when you're playing like doggy do.
Doggy do. Thank you, RC. God, I love that guy. We're gonna talk about the post game later, but I'm sort of with Victor. And yes, I don't think I've ever seen Mahomes get. The only time I've seen him get that angry is when he has been hurt. That's the only other time I've seen him show any type of negative emotion like that. But outside of him, and it's not his fault, that's the first time I've seen him be that way, that demonstrative. But this is not the first time Kadarius Toney has cost them a game. In fact, the very first game of the year, Kadarius Toney couldn't find his hands. It looks like now he cannot find the line of scrimmage. Come on, man. Really? This is something that, forget college, forget high school, forget junior high. This is something in Pee Wee League you get taught. See the ball lined up behind it. And he's staring directly at the ball. How could you not know you're not in a neutral zone? Never mind. I'm not going to go in the soapbox. It's just, that just makes no sense to me. The Denver Broncos, who seemingly was out of the whole shebang this year, now has put on a nice little run. And the run continues 24-7 as they beat up the Chargers in, and I do literally mean beat up, in Atlanta, in LA, or Inglewood to be specific. Russell Wilson felt right at home at SoFi, 21 of 33, 224 yards, a touchdown and a pick. He gave you 11 yards on 3 carries as well. I'll get to the Broncos defense in a second. The Chargers offense, in lieu of, unfortunately, Justin Herbert being injured, 207 passing yards. Quentin Johnston gave you 3 receptions, 91 yards for the Chargers. But the star to me of this game, the Broncos defense. 1 INT, 1 fumble recovery, and 6 sacks of different Chargers quarterbacks. Your thoughts on this game, sir?
If anybody watched this game and thought that Russell Wilson won the game,
What?
you gotta be smoking some drugs.
What?
There's no way that Russell Wilson came into this game and won the game.
What?
Well, you can say what all you want to, but the whole point of the matter, the fact is, it's what Cole said. The defense lit them up on the other side of the ball.
Yeah.
And maybe
You can't handle the truth.
that's just how it is out here in these streams. Now,
Let me talk to you.
when it comes to this game right here, when it comes to Russell mother-fathering Wilson,
Oh, Lord.
he has been playing decent at the game manager role since the Broncos have been coming back and winning games after that tumultuous start they had in that first month of the season. But you have to give a lot of credit, as Cole just did, when it comes to the defensive play of this team, because they would not be on the roll that they're on if it wasn't for the turnaround of the defensive style of play. You have to look at this team. The fact that we only have 4 more games left in the season, and they have a winning record.
Yes.
A winning record. It's 7-6. I never would have thought that would have happened.
I didn't either.
And the only way that we would see more hype on this team if it happened from a team like this.
Ain't nobody calling me, texting me.
However,
Ain't nobody care. Who cares? Ain't nobody care.
and some of you may be saying this.
Now, that is absurd.
However,
Acknowledge me.
I rest my case. Cole, we lost you on the audio. I hate it when that happens to me too.
Yeah. Yes, it's remarkable that they started 1-5 and now they have won 6 out of the last 7, and they are now within striking distance of not just a playoff bid, but now they are 1 game away and 1 game out of the AFC West lead. Did we think we were going to even say that in December?
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, no, to the no, no.
That is how remarkable this run has been for the Broncos. They are 1 game out of the AFC West lead. Oh my gosh. Oh, Victor says, why was that brought up? That did not need to be seen. Oh, and he also said, Kadarius Toney is going to get a diss track from Taylor Swift by next week. And she attended that game too, so you might be onto something, Vic. You might see it.
Yeah, I don't want to hear anybody say that their losses are effective. What she's been doing, okay,
No.
or the fact that she's been around the team. It has nothing to do with Taylor Swift and their shortcomings in the games that they have lost out of those 5 losses. It's, it comes down to the wire. Some of the decisions are not being made in the rightest of way, and part of it, I don't usually like to point the finger at refs, but they have been part of the reason why some of these games have been going either way. And of course, Eagles fans, if you bring it up to them, they're going to talk about the Super Bowl last year and say it should have gone their way, shoulda, coulda, woulda. This could have happened to all teams, but the Eagles are not in the top 4 of Dumpster Pelicans right there. They are probably the 29th ranked team on the list of Dumpster Pelicans. And hey, you should be appreciating my poll of you at 29 on Dumpster Pelicans, because that means you're one of the better teams in the league.
Did we mention Eagles? Because unfortunately, they played like this. And yes, Victor, we heard many of your brethren go.
Ain't nobody nobody calling me, texting me, paging me, asking me, are you still involved? Delete! 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 Delete!
Shoot him, boy.
I'm still the boy. I'm still the Lord. Why? The Cowboys, I will say this, and I'm being completely honest here. They played the best game they had this year. Yes, I know they had a 40-0 shutout of the Giants, first Sunday night game of the year. This game was better. 33-13. They just simply beat down, beat around, and just simply pillaged the Eagles. Both lines of scrimmage, the Eagles stood not a chance. The Cowboys on both lines of scrimmage dominated the Eagles every which way possible. Dak Prescott gave you 24-39, 271 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did have a lost fumble in the game. The offense gave you 138 yards on the ground with a multitude of rushers. Jalen Hurts, 18-27, 197 yards, and 5 carries and 30 yards as well. A.J. Brown, 9 receptions, 94 yards, and Hassan Reddick, he did put Dak Prescott on the ground twice. Oh, I'm sorry. Devontae Smith, yeah, he had a decent game. I think it was 6 receptions, 74 yards, something like that. And that's right, ladies and gentlemen, the Cowboys defense forced Hurts, Brown, and Smith into fumbles and recovered all of them. But Brandon Aubrey, to me, outside of Dak, is the star of the game as well. 4 made field goals, 3 of them from 50 yards or greater. Your thoughts on this game, sir?
This game was absolutely...
That's terrible.
You know, looking at how this game was from start to finish, I just wanted this man to come out there and say this.
You're fired!
Yeah, that game was all Cowboys.
To somebody.
Anybody, huh?
Just anybody. Even if it was like the 3rd string left tackle on the Eagles, you deserve...
You're fired!
Because there was...
The Eagles, oh my gosh.
The 3rd string left tackle for all that being said.
The left tackle. Wow.
Because there was nobody on that Eagles team at the end of the game that said,
I think I got my swagger back. Oh.
Rick James was either looking down or looking up saying this.
Now, that is absurd.
Hopefully looking down. But when it comes to this situation right here, the Eagles, all the hype that we've heard on this team since last year, going to the Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts got screwed out of that MVP. Then they come out this year, they start off the way they did. Jalen Hurts is going to get his MVP back. And I was part of the people saying that. And I've said it on this show, is they're going to make up for not giving Jalen Hurts the MVP last year. And they're going to basically give it to him this year. But when you play games like you did this past weekend, it's going to make it a little bit hard to make that happen, because there's other people in this league who are playing some great football, even though the Miami Dolphins getting exposed here recently. And if it wasn't, and they can't do anything without Tyreek Hill.
That was
because when he's off the field, Tua looks like a shell of himself. So if anybody had Tua in the MVP race, they need to take him out, because if anybody on that Miami Dolphins team deserves to be in the front running of the MVP in the top 3 to 5 people as candidates of the MVP, it deserves to be Tyreek.
Now it's Tyreek.
It is without a question of a doubt. There's no other wide receiver that deserves to be in the MVP race this year except for him, and there's no other Miami Dolphin that deserves to be in the MVP race this year except for him. Because when you look at what the Eagles are doing, especially in this game right here. Their number one, weapon, A.J. Brown, can't even carry them to stay that close in the game. Like if Tyreek Hill and him were to trade places. Because if Tyreek Hill wasn't banged up like he was this past weekend, but if he was at Tyreek Hill form and he was on the Eagles in place of A.J. Brown, they wouldn't have gotten mollywopped like they did the other night. Yeah. So the Cowboys showed up. The Cowboys team is for real this year. That defense, even without Trayvon Diggs, has been making great waves throughout this league this year. And it's tough to be a fan of the Commanders, a person that analyzes and covers that team as well, and watch this Cowboys team 2 times a year, especially this year, because they are for real. They are coming. And you can have your quarterback sounding like he's in the back of a short bus saying, "Here we go!" But he is still doing the things that needs to get done out there on the field. And you can say whatever you want. If you play to the magnitude of what you do, my hat's off to you if my hat was on my head.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Fit just says the gross misuse of Taylor Swift is starting to be borderline. It's starting to borderline on the criminal. Oh, and happy birthday, Taylor Swift. Your birthday is tomorrow. I hope everything is good with you. Although I know you're not happy with how your man performed. Well, you're happy with how your man performed. You're not happy how your man's team performed.
Yeah. You can't be upset at Kelsey because,
Kelsey's
great.
balling. Yeah, Kelsey's balling.
It was Tony to play like doggy do.
This is true. And I thank you. All right, like I love that doggy do. I'm going to have to find that. And Victor says, oh, believe me, Cole, the moronic Republic of Cowboys Nation has been buzzing all night. Oh, and he says, no, not Taylor Swift, DeAndre Swift. Here's what I'm not liking about that. Is this an admission of the Eagles offense and the offense coordinator in saying the line is not good enough to actually run block? Because to me, when they establish the run, that team is a lot better. But they don't even want to be invested in wanting to establish the run. And for the life of me, it has boggled my brain. Because I was like, well, Swift is not really injured. And I didn't see one huge loss on the offensive line for the Eagles. That is really bothering me. And now it's coming back to bite them because they have now taken a 42-19 thumping to the 49ers and now a 33-13 thumping to the Cowboys. Yes, I know it wasn't as much of a thumping as the 42-19 game was, but the Cowboys physically dominated Sunday night's game. And I don't care if you're an Eagles fan or not. That cannot happen if you think this team is going to go to the Super Bowl again like they did last year, this year. You just cannot have that happen. And, of course, we have a brother in Cool McCain. I actually said to him the Monday after last Sunday's game, I said, I hate to say it to you, brother. I know you're an Eagles fan, but I hate to say it to you, brother. They're going to take an L in Arlington. I'm not rooting for it. I'm just not liking what I'm seeing with the Eagles. He says,
I told him they were going to get an L because he kept saying fly, Eagles, fly on everything.
No, but well, I know that's why you said it. I said it because I was like, I just don't like what I'm seeing with the Eagles. I don't like the body language. I didn't like what I saw from them when they left the field with that L they took at home to the 49ers. I'm like, man, they're tailor-made for the Cowboys to dump. And unfortunately, that's what happened. Now, I'll talk about what I think about them this coming week. But yes, that I did say that to Cool, and Cool was like, "No, they're gonna get the Eagles angry." I'm like, "No, the Eagles aren't angry enough. They are now, though. They are now." Victor says, "Yes, it seems like the Eagles' offense coaches are conceding that they can't run the football." And I think another thing you probably will have to add to that too. Is it because they don't feel confident in running Jalen Hurts like they did last year? Because it seems like that running game is predicated on having him jump started and not DeAndre Swift. And that is what I don't. That's the disconnect I have. And if their running game is predicated on Jalen Hurts, they need to stop that because they're gonna get that man injured. And I don't want to see that because he's too good of a quarterback to have that happen. Huh. One of the Monday night games we will talk about now, the NFC Monday night game. The Giants in the Meadowlands hosting the Green Bay Packers. They have been coming on strong, but they fell short. 24-22 was the final score. The Giants come from behind to win. The Giants offense gave you 209 rushing yards, with Saquon Barkley giving you 86 of them and 2 touchdowns. Tommy, don't call me Tony DeVito, extremely efficient. 17-21, 158 yards, and the other touchdown passing variety. For the losing cause, Jordan Love gave you 25-39 for 218 yards, a touchdown, a pick, and a lost fumble. Randy Bullock missed a field goal earlier, but he gave you a game-winning 37-yard field goal. The biggest part to me about this game was that the Packers had opportunities to convert on third down, and I think they only converted on 3 of them the whole game. And I think it was in double digits how many third down opportunities they had. And to me, that was the game, because if they converted maybe 3 more of those, the Packers would have won this game. Your thoughts, sir?
So the biggest thing that stuck out to me, it was very similar to when Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift started dating and they kept cutting to the audience and cutting to her. Watching this game, when they kept cutting to Tony, don't call me Tommy DeVito's agent, it looked like Johnny Fontaine with the mob suit and chain on out there with the hat. Johnny Fontaine from the movie Scarface, or the Godfather movie, who was supposed to be playing Frank Sinatra's character. Oh, he was singing a tune out there in the stadium that night with the family. Every time Tony, don't call me Tommy, kept slinging the ball around out there and making things happen for that team. Now, looking at old Tommy, 17-21 with a touchdown, 158 yards. Yeah, that looks like a third-string quarterback's total passing yards for the game. But I don't think, even though he's out there doing the money signs, old Tony, don't call me Tommy, you're not going to get paid this off-season. If you do, you'll get some type of Taylor Heineke 2-year contract to keep you in the league and make you a few mil and to make you happy to where you don't have to go to your mom's house to get cutlets every day. Okay. So you need to spend more time with Johnny Fontaine getting you some, toilet paper commercial contracts to get you some extra money out there, because it is not going to happen as a first-string quarterback. Enjoy this primetime win, Tony, don't call me Tommy, because it's probably your last one, and you're not going to get many more opportunities to do that when you're throwing for 158 passing yards. Yeah, people are probably saying, well, Drew, he only had 4 incompletions. Well, congratulations, Tony, don't call me Tommy, on only having 4 incompletions. That victory right there is more for the people like Wazel Hefe. They had to deal with me saying that their team was going to be 1-7 to start the year. Yeah, I was close enough.
Here we
as
go.
I was right with the 1-5 prediction. But when it comes to this team right here, there is definitely big things you have to address during the offseason. And the number one thing is quarterback, is because your third-string quarterback is having better success than your first-string quarterback did when he was out there. You got to make some moves this offseason if you were in the front office of the New York Giants.
Oh, my gosh. How did I know this was going to go into grind axe with Wise? Okay.
Speaking of Wise, he will be on D. Willie in the evening next week.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool. I'm always tuning into your show, but I definitely cannot miss that one. I'm happy for Mr. DeVito. Heartwarming story. It's great that he has the all-American story that you almost think, okay, he must eat spaghetti 3 times a week and he must drink milk and he waves the American flag before he goes out and plays every game. He almost has that type of feel for his story. So yes, it's a heartwarming story, and It was great they came out with a win, and yeah, it's all great and wonderful. And it would be almost sickening if the Giants actually run the table. And no, I'm not saying this because I want to get it wise. I'm saying it because I would be more sick of seeing that story happen because of the proliferation of all of DeVito's family than I would Taylor Swift cutting to her every time the Chiefs have the ball. But Mr. DeVito, let's not be Johnny Manziel 2.0.
Hey, but if you grew out a mustache, you look like a mini Jeff Hostetler.
And now it is time for the upset of the week, other than this Jeff Hostetler thought process and image I have in my brain. The Steelers hosted the Patriots Thursday night in the Catch a Bottle Acrisure, and they had an inferior opponent for the second straight week. Well, I should say second straight week of games, but twice in 4 days. Inferior opponent in Pittsburgh, the same result as last Sunday. Another the Patriots beat them 21-18. Bailey Zappi getting his first start this year. This time now, actually not because Mac Jones is injured, but to replace him. 19-28, 240 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. Good outing, actually. 3 more carries, 13 yards for him as well. Juju Smith-Schuster comes back to his former team's place. 4 receptions, 90 yards. Mitchell, you don't even need to be behind center of anybody's quarterback, anybody's team. 22-35, 190 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. 8 carries for 30 yards and a rushing touchdown. Your thoughts, sir?
This is where I need the off-the-rails transition. Because we are heading that way.
What?
When it comes to this game right here, and how bad it was absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
So terrible, I got to bring up Sir Charles for this.
That's terrible.
Did you ever think that they were going to miss Mac and Chi? I mean, a little bit, maybe. They didn't in this game because Bailey Zappi threw for 3 touchdowns and an interception. But I don't know what's worse. The Pittsburgh Steelers giving up 3 touchdowns to the backup quarterback, or the New England Patriots giving up 30 rushing yards and a touchdown on the ground to Mitch Trubisky. You have 2 terrible situations right here.
You can't handle the truth.
That's why you didn't address these problems during the previous offseason, because you couldn't handle the truth.
What?
I said you couldn't handle the truth.
What?
You have 2 backup quarterbacks facing each other in this contest.
What?
I said we were going off the rails.
What?
And it comes to the situation right here. And you have Bailey Zappi, the backup quarterback, throwing 3 touchdowns on the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, a defense that over the years has had the hype based on Mike Tomlin and his coach.
What?
And here it is. More like they are completely off the rails, because those are the 2 teams that are playing like complete dumpster pelicans on this season. The Patriots are looking to have a top 5 pick, and the Steelers are helping them get out of the top 5 by getting victories the way they did in this past week.
Yeah.
Making Bailey Zappi look like Thomas Edward Patrick Brady II.
What?
Junior.
Not as bad, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll acknowledge your junior with
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm still going to come back with it.
What?
Because this game right here was absolutely terrible. If anybody got excited during this game, they need to reevaluate themselves as a fanatic of football. And you should have been taking a good old nap during this game like you did during the Minnesota Vikings and Las Vegas Raiders game. I rest my case. And now after that take, I need to.
Stop it. Get some help.
I feel drained.
And that was yet another production of thank you. Oh my gosh. I don't need to say anything else because Steelers had no business losing to a team. That was before they got the W 2-10. Oh my gosh. Goodness gracious. And now it's time for the No, it's not. Now, in the cold open, I did say that there were some home teams that were in the giving mood, and this wasn't Christmas yet. Well, here's another home team that was in the giving mood. And that's right, ladies and gentlemen, we had not one but two upsets of the week this week. The second one, the Miami Dolphins. No. They weren't the ones upsetting. They were the ones getting upset. They hosted the Titans, but took an L after they held a 27-13 lead with under 3 minutes to go in the game, but they lose it 28-27. Will Levis gave you 327 yards through the air on 23 of 38, a touchdown, a pick, and a lost fumble as well to boot. DeAndre Hopkins, 7 receptions, 124 yards, and a touchdown. Tyjae Spears out the backfield, 7 carries, 29 yards, but from out the backfield catching, decent. 6 receptions, 89 yards. Tua Tagovailoa on the losing end, 23 of 33, 240 yards on a lost fumble. And after the first quarter, he seemed lost, period. Raheem Mostert were good on the ground, 21 carries, 96 yards, and 2 touchdowns. 96 of the, and he gave them 96 of the 158 yards that the Dolphins gained on the ground. Tyreek Hill tweaked his ankle in the first quarter. He gave you only 4 receptions, 61 yards. He tried to be game and come back and played on it, but he basically served as a decoy, and it just simply did not work. But credit the Titans defense. They put Tua on the ground 5 times, with Harold Landry III giving you 3 of those 5, and a fumble recovery to boot. Your thoughts on this upset in South Beach, sir?
You know, had Mostert just ran straight forward on that, was it fourth
down?
down?
It was third down.
It was third down, yeah, because on fourth down, Tua got sacked.
Right.
So on third down, had he just ran forward for another 2 yards, rather than cutting out to the right and trying to get out of bounds, we could be talking a different game this afternoon. We could be talking the fact that Miami, came back, but inevitably we're talking about the Titans coming back. Mm-hmm. The Titans, hung tough, being down by two possessions. Okay, coming back towards the end and scoring, going for 2. That gutsy going for 2 call to bring them within 6 points, because doing that and then the next possession being up by 1 to put the pressure on the Dolphins. Had they tied the game and it went to overtime, I think the Titans and the Braves knew that there was no way they were going to win that game. It was going to shift in the momentum of the home team, that being the Dolphins, because that's it. Like statistically, that's generally what happens. I forget the stat and how long it goes back, but it was like 0-780 something. The teams were when you were down by 14 points and there's only 3 minutes left in the game. That stat was mind-boggling when I saw that at the end of the game last night. If anybody is watching now or even after this is live can leave in the comments what that stat was. I think it was like 787 or something like that. It was like 787 or 781. The teams were with 3 minutes or less in the game of time remaining, and you're down by 14 points. No team had ever come back in that, and the Titans were the first team to ever do that. It speaks volumes on the caliber and the caliber of talent for this team. But it really speaks volumes on their grit, because you're getting knocked down. A team that has the hype on them, like the Miami Dolphins of Tyreek Hill and all these things. You knock Tyreek Hill out in the first quarter. The Dolphins are not the same team that they are throughout the game, and it's definitely very obvious throughout the rest of that game that even when they were bringing him in as a decoy, the Dolphins were not the same in their utilization of Tyreek Hill. Even as a decoy, you were not getting the perks of using him as a decoy. So they were exposed this past weekend just like the Detroit Lions were, and they've got a big load on their hands as far as how to prove to myself and many other people in this country that they are not just pretenders after the way that they, along with the Lions, played this past weekend.
Oh, man. And people were salivating at the thought of, well, when the Dolphins and the Ravens meet, this will be for the number 1 seed in the AFC. And I mean, it still could be. But when you take an L like this, it raises a lot of doubt as to the validity of the team. And first, it was if teams were over 500, the Dolphins couldn't beat. Now it's a team that's physical they can't beat, because that's what the Titans bring. And if they could just eliminate the mistakes, they will be fine. And they almost made one too many for that to not happen and transpire, but they recovered in time, and they scored 15 points in the last 3 minutes to win this game. But this one's going to sting for a good while for the Dolphins, I mean, because this one is a game they should have won, and it was a game they should have won handily, but oh well. And now we get to our game of the week. This was in M&T Bank Stadium. The Baltimore Ravens, they came into this game 9-3. They played the 6-6 Rams. You would have thought that this was going to be a game that the Ravens would not have issue with, but they had plenty of issue. The lead changed hands a few times, definitely in the second half. The Ravens, they got ahead, but the Rams, the Rams forced the issue. They forced the Ravens to kick a field goal. They forced the Ravens to score a touchdown to go up 31-28. The Rams kick a field goal to tie it at 31. They get the ball in overtime. They could not do anything. They punt. And Tylan Wallace, who was substituting for Duvernay, he returns the punt 76 yards to end the game and win it for the Ravens. Lamar Jackson, okay. 24-43, 316 yards, 3 touchdowns, and INT. He also rushed the ball 11 times for 70 yards. The Ravens offense gave you 137 yards on the ground. Well, of course, half of that basically belongs to Lamar Jackson. Odell Beckham Jr., 4 receptions, 97 yards, and a touchdown. Isaiah Likely chipped in with 5 receptions, 83 yards, and another touchdown. And for the Rams, Matthew Stafford, 23-41, 294 yards and 3 touchdowns. Kyren Williams, who's establishing himself to be a playmaker for the Rams, 25 carries, 114 yards. Cooper Kupp, 8 receptions, 115 yards and a touchdown. Puka Nacua, 5 receptions, 84 yards. Your thoughts on this game, sir?
Lamar Jackson definitely balled out well enough to make this happen, but I can't put him as. I know we'll get to this in a little bit, and I'll explain why more in depth when we get to that point. But I can't put him as my number 1 playmaker of the week because of the fact that he almost had 20 incompletions in this game. The Rams' defense isn't as good as the numbers that the Ravens were showing as a result of the defensive play that the Rams were playing. The Rams defense is not as good as the miscues that the Ravens offense were making. Being the fact that he threw for an interception and had 19 incompletions. Okay. Now, I think that what really kept them in the game was the fact that Lamar Jackson was extending plays with his legs as he's done, throughout his entirety of his career. As he had 11 carries for 70 yards. Had he not done that and been centralized mainly as in the pocket throughout the game, they would not have won that game. It was him extending the plays with his legs that was what kept them in the game. Matthew Stafford was what really kept the Rams in this game, even though he himself had 18 incompletions, 294 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, and he is centralized to the pocket as he's not a mobile quarterback.
Right.
So for him to do all of that and to keep this team within only 6 points, and they had to go to overtime to decide it, it goes to show that mentally this Rams team believes they are a playoff team, and they are fighting and clawing their way into staying relevant in that chase, even though the first month of the season, along with the Broncos and other teams as well, we would not be sitting here, and we did not think back in September, or we'll say the 1st of October, let alone the 2 months ago in October, in the midway point of October, you and I were not sitting here saying that the Rams and the Broncos are teams that the rest of the league needs to look out for in the playoffs. But if the Rams make the playoffs and they are technically biting kneecaps at this current moment rather than the Lions, I'd say you have to be worried about that, because when you're playing the teams to the caliber of what you're playing in these past few weeks like the Rams did, until this game right here, they had a 3-game winning streak. They had a 3-game winning streak coming into this weekend against the Ravens, and very closely almost had a 4-game winning streak. 6-6 coming into this game. When they were 3-6 before that 3-game winning streak, you have to look at this team and what they've done. They scored 36 points on the Browns defense. They scored 31 points on the Ravens defense. This is pretty solid. Of course, beating the Cardinals 37-14 is nothing to get excited about. And the same thing with the Seahawks beating them by 1. But, previously before that, they had lost 3 straight games to the Steelers, the Cowboys, and the Packers. And I think that was the turnaround moment in the season. You're 3-6 after that 3-game losing skid. And then you win 3 straight games. Going against the Ravens, I can't get upset that they lost and are now down to 6-7. It doesn't mean their season's over. But what it does mean is it showed how tough this team is, and they have to take care of the small miscues. And part of it is Lamar Jackson needs to not throw 20 incompletions in a game.
Ooh, man, I could not say it better, because I agree with you. Take care of those miscues, and I think they could go far. Actually, I think both teams can. But yeah, I could not say it better. I love where both these teams are going, because I think they're both showing grit and both showing fight. And now the Ravens, they have to now fend off the Jaguars. We'll talk about them, of course, later. And they do have the Dolphins to play later this year too. And that is basically to cement the 1 seed for them. And it might come down to those games. But that is Week 14's Total Football Talks Game of the Week. And when we come back, we are going to get the Gridiron Scoop, and we'll show you one of our dogs in that order. We'll be right back.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On 2. Ready? Break.
We're just getting started. Total Football Talk will return right after this.
Everything Boston. I love you morons. New Kids on the Block, New Edition.
Dear whatever the law firm is. Sincerely, the U.S. Supreme Court.
Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. Go yourself again, Jason Whitlock.
fellas who know football, let's ride. LC Muscles 28.
I think they're the most overrated defense in the league.
Steel Sermon.
We did not trail for a single second.
Tiny Tim.
McCarthy is a bonehead.
A Pistol 90.
I'm going with my boys. Fins up, baby!
Get ready for the Four Horsemen of Peckham's. Every Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central on YouTube. Poppy J.
You got the option to cry for the government. You got the option to protest. You got the option to keep buying. But this is also an option.
Wise El Jefe.
We're the first tech geeks. We're the first gamers. We're the first everything. Everything. Like Gen X's, we are the ones.
BS3 Network proudly presents the crew from the New York boroughs who never wants that smoke. Nah, they want that fire. Poppy J and Wise El Jefe. Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. Check your local listings for your viewing and listening pleasure.
We are back with Total Football Talk with Drew Willingham. I am Cole Johnson. And wonderful slate of games this week. As I said, the home teams were very giving. I'll put it that way this week. But what's on tap? Well, it's time for the GRIDIRON Scoop. Chargers starting quarterback Justin Herbert. He fractured his finger on his throwing hand early in the 24-7 loss to the Broncos. All right, I'll be professional. The head coach of the team, Brandon Staley, said that he has no information or a timetable for Herbert's return and that the team will know more in the next few days. But that will be short because the Raiders because the Raiders will be waiting for them in Las Vegas Thursday. Now, Herbert has started 62 consecutive games, which is the second longest streak to Josh Allen's 84. Now, of course, Herbert being the game guy himself, he had to say this about his injury. Quote, it's obviously tough. You feel bad for hanging the team out like that. You never want to be taken out of the game. It is something that we'll know more as the week goes on. And if there's any chance to play, I'll do everything I can to be out there. Close quote. Now, here's the question I have to ask. Now, Herbert wants to be out there, but should the Chargers call it a season with Herbert's injury?
I thought they were calling it a season before his injury. So my answer is
That's a good one. That's a good one. They were calling the season before. Yes, sir. I totally agree. I totally agree. Oh my gosh. But yeah, I look, I do feel for Herbert, and I think I feel more for him because I think this team has not really prepared him the way he should. And this injury, even though yes, it's a fractured finger, is definitely proof positive. The 2023 season to me is a wash for them. And if they have a chance to run the table and make the playoffs, those chances were dinged pretty badly Sunday. So yeah, I don't see any way around that for him. Oh, well, but I wish him well. I hope he heals up quickly. But I think he should call it a wrap for this season, though. It looks like the hits just keep on coming for the Texans. So they lost rookie quarterback C.J. Stroud in the game due to concussion, and they lost leading wide receiver Nico Collins as well in that game, which was a 30-6 loss to the Jets. 30-6 to the Jets. Yeah. I'm sorry. Stroud did the game's NFL leader in passing yards. Now he's in concussion protocol after the back of his helmet smacked the turf when he was driven to the ground by Quinnen Williams with 6:43 left in the fourth quarter. And unfortunately, he laid on the ground for a few minutes. Now, as for Collins, he left the game with a calf injury on the first offensive drive of the game, and it was right after he caught a pass for 13 yards, which put him over the 1,000-yard mark for the season. But after that, he went to the locker room shortly thereafter. Now, my question to you is, should the Texans take precautions and not start Stroud when they come to Nashville Sunday?
Yes. And the biggest reason why I say that is you still have a winning record at this moment. So it's not like you're 5-7 or 5-8 or anything like that, to where the next rest of the month, every single game you have to win to stay alive. Okay. Now, for seeding, yes, it makes a difference. But this is the future of your franchise quarterback that you just drafted. You're in the first year of a potential 10 to 15 to 20-year career. Okay. Depending on how things plays out and how he does after his sophomore season next year and beyond. I mean, there's a lot more question marks that have to be filled before we get too far ahead of ourselves. But in this moment, we've seen many other rookies or many other young, talented players get banged up, and the coaching decides to put them in there a little bit too soon. And then they have lingering effects, no matter if it's the knee, if it's the shoulder, if it's the elbow. But the most important piece is your dome piece, and that being your brain. When it comes to this, as much as we joke around and play around, here and there off the rails, whether there's this show or other shows that we do, the most important thing you have to have, no matter what you're doing, whether it's a sport, whether it's podcasting, whether it's driving a mother-fathering car, you have to have a brain, okay? And if you don't have a brain, you're going to have miscues. You're going to mess up. Well, you can't really do anything without a brain. But if you lose part of your cognizant thinking ability, especially when you're out there on the field being a quarterback, you're supposed to be a cerebral assassin, bringing in the wrestling term from Triple H, the game for wrestling. But here on the field of football, you have to be a cerebral assassin. You have to be able to use your head in the quick moments. Sometimes you only have like 1.5 to 2 seconds to make a play in your mind before you actually make the play on the field. So I really encourage the Texans to not rush him back on the field, because you got to think long-term here. I would be completely okay if I was a Texans fan like yourself and you kept Stroud out this week, potentially the next week, and it cost you the playoffs. I would be okay with that, because you still have another 10 to 15 years. You can see this kid, and more than likely he's going to stay in Houston as long as D'Amico Ryans and the rest of the staff and the front office continues to build a great team around him. You're not going to be able to do it with Davis Mills. 1 of 5 for 4 yards. Okay. Look at what Davis Mills did and cleanup duty for him yesterday. You cannot take a chance of getting further in the season or even to the playoffs and relying on Davis Mills. He's going to let you down. It's not going to work. Take care of CJ Stroud and get him back in there healthy.
Yeah. And I second that. Look, any other injury, more than likely, it's like, okay, you could probably try to gut it out if you can, but the dome piece, and take as many precautions as possible. And if it means to miss the playoffs this year, I didn't have them going into playoffs this year in the first place.
That's exactly what I was saying. It's like nobody, you, me, anybody was expecting this out of this team.
Right.
Get ready for next year.
Save him as many games as you need to save him. But yes, his future is more important than trying to get 10 or 11 wins on the season if you can. Hold on as long as you can, because CJ Stroud, he has the potential to be the best quarterback the Texans ever had. You got to take care of him. And it might be taken care of for him because he is in concussion protocol. It just depends on what they say this week when he's checked out again.
And if they throw him back in there this week, you know that whoever's in charge was listening to too much Phil Collins and that One More Night song. One more night. Yeah, you had to throw him out there one more time, and he got hurt one more time. You take that One More Night song and you stick it somewhere where it doesn't shine because you need to keep him off the field for this weekend.
It's all about the game and how you play it. Well, no, we have fun on the show, and I think it's great. Unfortunately, sometimes we have to bring news like this to you as well. It shocked me when I heard it. Frank Wycheck, who was a former tight end for the Titans and a big time sports personality in the Nashville area, he, with a fall, died at the age of 52 on Saturday. Wycheck's family confirmed that he died after that fall in his home, which is 2 hours away from Nashville and Chattanooga. The 6th-round draft pick by Washington, actually, in 1993, after playing collegiately at Maryland, he played 2 seasons for the Commanders before joining the Oilers in 95 and moving with them to Tennessee 2 years later. Now, he became a trusted receiver for the late quarterback Steve McNair as the Titans made the playoffs 4 times in 5 years from 99 to 2003, including the Super Bowl 34 appearance. Well, since he actually did play for Washington, what are your memories, although it was very early in your fandom of the team, what are your memories of Frank Wycheck?
I don't have any of memories of him with the Washington, formerly known as the RADSKINS, because, that tenure, that time frame, was I watching the team? Yeah, but was I invested as I was beginning a few years later and getting older and stuff? No, I was, when Frank Wycheck played with the team, I was 6, 7 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, remembering anything to that magnitude, like I was telling before, like I remember when they went to the Super Bowl,
mm-hmm.
and I remember being at the Super Bowl party, but I don't remember much of the game unless it's what I watched after that, like when NFL films and getting older.
Mm-hmm.
What I do remember from Frank Wycheck is his time with the Titans, and especially being part of that Music City Miracle, as they have showed that so many times, being part of that team that literally got a half a yard away from winning the Super Bowl. On that play where Kevin Dyson, dived and almost broke the plane, came pretty close to breaking the plane, but unfortunately the Greatest Show on Turf won that year. For him to be like, 51, 52, I mean, that's very young. That's very young to me. We would have said, people would have said this 20, 30 years ago, they'd been like, 50's old, you old son of a gun. Yeah, you'd have been like, you old, but now, 50's like the new 40, 30's the new 20, whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
So when I hear someone at that age falling and dying, like either he lived at a big house and fell off the second story, somebody needs to investigate and see if the man was pushed, because it's hard to believe that someone who's 52 years old, 52 years young, in my opinion, fell and hit his head and died. Now, if this was 30 years from now, if this was the year 2053 and the man was in his 80s, I believe it a little bit more. I believe it a little bit more.
Yeah.
But when you hear that someone at the age of 52 and fell and hit their head, if you told me today, like, hey, like I fell and hit my head, I got a headache. If you hit me up at like 9 o'clock this morning, hey, I fell and hit my head. I can't do the show today. I would power on or whatnot, try to do it without you, whatnot. But I wouldn't expect that later on in the day you'd be dead. Like I would think like, yeah, you needed to go get your head checked, concussion protocol, like we were just talking about with the last segment. I'd still expect to see you next week. Talk to you throughout the week. I would still expect to see you next week.
Right.
Thinking of this magnitude, the fact that Frank Wycheck took the hits that he did in the NFL,
Mhm.
played in a harder era because
Yep.
he was in
More
the
physical.
NFL right before it became pacified in the 2000s.
Mhm.
Okay. So to think about the abuse the man took on the field,
Mhm.
and then in 2023, just before Christmas, we're talking about the fact that the man fell, hit his head, and is no longer here. I'm not like a big conspiracy theorist, but I feel like there's a little bit more to this story,
Yeah.
or just the amount of hits that I was just talking about with what the man took back in the day. I don't really want to say it this way because it might sound bad, but maybe it softened him up enough to where a regular hit that you and I would take by falling and hitting our head, in me in my late 30s, you know, in your age too, closer to Frank Wycheck than me, but still,
Mhm.
if you were to hit your head, I wouldn't think that it would be as bad as what happened. Maybe, you know, the dome piece got messed up a little bit too much to where it was a little bit bad for you or I if we would have hit our head, or it was a bigger fall, or options.
Mhm.
There's a little bit more of the story.
Yeah. Yeah. I just was not thinking that. I mean, the last time I saw, Wycheck, which was like about maybe a year-ish or so ago, I'm like, oh, looks like retirement is serving him well. I mean, he looked like he was active. He didn't seem like he was infirm anyway. And yeah, to get this news Sunday, it was a shock to my system. But prayers to the family, and you gave wonderful memories. And yes, the Music City Miracle is what he's going to be always known for, and probably best known for. But he probably would also go down in Nashville as one of the first Titans stars that made Nashville and the area of Middle Tennessee home for him. But unfortunately, he passed away. Frank Wycheck, former tight end of the Commanders, the Oilers, and then Titans, dead at age 52. And that concludes the Gridiron Scoop.
Total Football Talk.
Now, where are my dogs at? Oh, yes, it's time for the grand champ, or the dog of the week. And for his dog, I turned the floor over to Drew.
You know, this time it was definitely a very challenging one. I've said this a few times during our 15 episodes we've had now, but, you know, there were three quarterbacks that in my mind, if I were to put in the dog of the week, I mean, there were some other players and other positions that I felt like made enough of an impact. But this week, I'm going to go with a quarterback again. Had it not been for nearly 20 incompletions and the interception that kept the game close, I would have given it to Lamar Jackson. If it wouldn't be the fact that they're on a 5-game winning streak and he threw an interception in the game, I give it to Brock Purdy because he only had 8 incompletions on 27 attempts, threw for 368 yards, 2 touchdowns. But for this week, being the fact that I didn't think we were going to be able to speak of him this highly again, and I think I said this the last time I gave him this award during the season as well. The backup quarterback for the New York Jets with the middle name Capono, I have to give it to Zach Wilson this week. Again, after, a month or so away from not giving it to him, as he's played like a dumpster pelican since the last time I gave it to him. And I'm kind of hoping that with me giving him this award this week, he'll play like a dumpster pelican again. The Jets will not be in the playoff race, and the Commanders will have a chance of beating the Jets here in a couple weeks. But when it comes to this situation here with Zach Wilson, I mean, the kid was 27 of 36, 301 yards, 2 touchdowns, did not throw an interception. Now, we can't give all of the hype to Capono here, as, the kid did have a lost fumble, okay? So out of the 3 quarterbacks that I mentioned, 2 of the 3 had an interception and Capono had a fumble. If Capono didn't have the fumble, he would have had a lights-out game. But because his middle name is Capono, it's probably why he fumbled the football. Somebody was probably saying, Capono, I'm coming after you, Capono. And he looked left. They were coming to the right, and they stripped the ball out. And there you go. Capono fumbles the football.
We got to pause that.
Try what he said to the dude as he was saying, Capono. Try to pause it because he was getting distracted. Now, good job to Capono. Good job to the Jets. My suggestion to you during the offseason, change that middle name from Capono to something like John or Timmy or something else besides Capono, and you won't fumble the football. I rest my case.
Timmy. Oh my God. Yes, sir. You are. Oh my gosh. Timmy.
Timmy.
You know, sometimes you have to give people their flowers before while they could smell them. So he's been getting a lot of hate because of the talent that's surrounding him. But name me any player in football that needs to succeed sans other good players around him. You hear that silence? That's the answer. No player. So it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what position you are. You're dependent on the other 10 that are on the field with you. And so this week I will give my dog this week to one Brock Purdy. Yes, he did make a mistake. He did throw a pick. But I'll give him credit. 19-27 for 368 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, yes, he was aided by McCaffrey's 145 yards on the ground. Yes, he was aided by Deebo Samuel's 49 yards in the air. And he was aided by Brandon Ayuk's 126 yards in the air. And he was aided by the defense of the 49ers, giving 4 sacks and a lot of trouble to Mr. Drew Lock. But you got to execute while you're there. As I always say, the quarterback is basically a football version of the point guard. His job is to get the ball into the hands of the skill position players that scores points. That is what he is supposed to do. Move chains to score points. That is what the quarterback has to do because he can't do it by himself, although people want to claim they can because they now are just coaching track stars to be quarterbacks. It's a wonderful throwback. And I do look at Brock Purdy as a throwback. It's a wonderful throwback to what the quarterback should be, and that is a guy who is dissecting defenses with his brain and his arm. So kudos to you, Brock Purdy. Wonderful game that you played. And no, this does not mean I'm a 49ers fan. I don't hate them either. I really could care less about the skull and the gold. But that's just me. I need to see some Willie Bucks. Why not? Be right back.
Coming up next, the featured attractions. This is Total Football Talk. Comey Media Incorporated. Creating content magic in the real world.
Little right here. Look at the inside of these cakes. Now, when you bite into it, just as I demonstrated while you were talking at the beginning of your discussion right there, I could taste the drugs inside of this cake, Sick. I could taste the addiction within the cream filling of this cake right here, to where they not only this with that cake right there, but they made an ice cream out of it. They made an ice cream out of it. A 1-pint Christmas tree cake ice cream. Look at that little just smile up there. Look, she is up to no good on there. Look at that. Look at that smile on there, Sick. She knows that she got you. got him is what's in her mind right now.
Acknowledge me.
Look at that little smile right there. She's up to no good.
D. Willie in the evening. Thursdays at 11:15 p.m. Eastern, 10:15 p.m. Central. Exclusively on Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, look. Hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willie Bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. $sign D Willie 87. Go ahead, hit him up on the Cash App, and go ahead and give him some Willie Bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen. Stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie Bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. Some Willie Bucks.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
If you're looking for a sports program that gives you the flavor.
Washington Commanders? Really?
This whole thing stinks to high heaven.
That pulls no punches.
Thuggish act by a thuggish actor.
That gives you some humor.
Praise everything LeBron does and never criticize it.
If you want a show that gives you good times, then this is that show. BS3 Network proudly presents.
I am Cole Johnson, and welcome to
Cole Sports with a Z. Every Friday on Patreon, and every Saturday on YouTube, Spreaker, and all other outlets.
Welcome back to Total Football Talk with Drew Willingham. I am Cole Johnson, and this has been a wonderful week, wonderful show thus far. We're not done. In fact, we are about to break down 3 of the most important games of Week 15. Here are the featured attractions. All right, we will start with a Saturday game. That's right. Now we are in Saturday games on the slate in the NFL season. Saturday, 4:30 p.m. kickoff. All times are Eastern. 4:30 p.m. kickoff on Saturday between the Steelers and the Colts. Now, why is this important? Because you got the Steelers at 7-6, who hold the 6th seed in the AFC currently, against the Colts at 7-6 as well. They hold the 7th seed. And they're also trying to hold off the Texans, the Bills, the Broncos. Am I forgetting another team? Bills, Broncos. And I think there's another team they're trying to hold off too, all at 7-6. So now you have the Steelers, who they were 7-4, but they took 2 home losses to woeful teams. But that offense is horrible. I mean, between Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth, which offensive weapon is needed to get the Steelers offense going?
They actually have an offensive weapon?
But I mean, they need to have somebody say,
I think I got my swagger back. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, if you were going to get any offensive position going, because when it comes to offensive weapon, I don't feel like they have any at this point. But when it comes to offensive player, you got to get Najee Harris going. Because the amount of yards that he put up in this past game, I mean, he was 12 carries for 29 yards, averaging 2.4. When your quarterback, Mitch Trubisky, is doing better than you, you got to get your running game established. I mean, that was absolutely terrible. So if I were to legitimately answer this question as far as a weapon being concerned, I'd have to say Najee Harris would have to be the one they had to get going, because your running game, once you establish that, it opens everything else up.
And I agree with the person too. Yes, the running game needs to be established, and I really believe Najee Harris has to be the guy that establishes it, because I think that everybody will be able to rally around him and up their play, because that defense is good, but that defense is starting to get tired. On the other side, the 3-point favored Colts, Jonathan Taylor, he of course had his issues with the team. When the regular season started, he got the extension that he sought, and he's down ensconced in Indianapolis, but now he's out with an injury. But that running game has not looked good. Can the running game rebound with Jonathan Taylor being gone?
No. And my reason being, you don't have enough around him to establish that. As far as backup running backs and other players that can carry the load, I'm going to say no, and that's going to be my reason for this.
Yeah. Okay. Put on the fan hat. Yeah, it'll be Hades no. By putting the analyst hat, I would agree. I think it's a no, although they have pieces that can do it. And I really believe that's where it has to be for the Colts to really have success. But if they're going to rely, and this is no shot against Minshew, but if they're going to rely so much on his arm, that's going to make defenses tailor their strategy to stop him. So anything to throw the scent off of having all the dogs being sicked on Minshew would be better. And of course, that starts with the running game. Unfortunately, it's not as good with Taylor being gone. So in this game that basically serves as a playoff elimination sort of type game, who do you have in it?
I think I got the Steelers winning this game, and it's going to be basically based on coaching versus coaching. Mike Tomlin's still a good coach. I feel like he can definitely out-coach the other side. And Shane Steichen's not a bad coach either with what he's done with the Colts this year. But I feel like Tomlin's going to get the upper hand on this one. He's going to get the win, unfortunately, with a guy like Mitch Trubisky. Doesn't matter. The rest of the team around him is pretty good in overall aspects, especially that defense. So I feel like they get Najee Harris going in this game. They're going to learn from this past game that you can't have Mitch Trubisky having more running yards on less carries to lead the team in rushing. So I feel like with what we talked about earlier to start this one, they're going to get Najee Harris going, and that's going to be the biggest factor in how the Steelers win this game.
Yeah. Of course, the fan in me wants the Steelers to win it. I think they are going to win it simply because I think they have a little more grit than the Colts do, and I think that's what's going to win out. Too much grit. Even though this game is in Indy, the Steelers have too much grit for the Colts, and I think they can't handle it. On to the next game. This is actually a Sunday game, late Sunday start, 4:25 kickoff in Orchard Park, New York, between the Cowboys at 10-3 against the Bills at 7-6. Now we have the Cowboys who are on a massive tear. They have ripped through everybody basically ever since that 42-10 thumping they took in Santa Clara against the 49ers. And now they have been doing nothing but winning. It's almost like the DJ Khaled song, and you're hearing T-Pain singing, all I do is win, 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 no matter what. It just seems like that's what the Cowboys are doing. And it's probably what the Cowboys are playing post-game every time they play now. The problem I see with the 49ers, though, it's not in the defense. It's not in the pass rushing. It's not in the secondary. It's not with the linebacking core. It's not with the wide receivers or quarterback. It is the running game. I'm not really liking the production that Tony Pollard is giving them. So will the lack of a solid running game hurt the Cowboys, not just in this game, but in particular, but in the long run?
I think it's going to affect them more towards playoff time and maybe towards the very end with seeding. But it won't affect them getting to the playoffs, because we've seen them get to the playoffs, over the past few seasons, especially, and then get exposed by the time the playoffs come around. If they'll be okay till playoff time, then they'll get exposed.
Mm-hmm. Man, solid. I agree with you. I think for the rest of the regular season, I think they'll be fine. And I think they will probably pull a game off in the playoffs. But when we get to the divisional round and the conference championship rounds, that is deep waters with teams that they're really good. The worst teams in the divisional rounds are very good. So if you got a team that could just eliminate your running, and they have and they're starting to run defense department, the Cowboys are going to have a long day in the office, no matter how fluid and smooth and beautiful and pretty they look on offense. For the Bills, now they've had distraction after distraction. I mean, they fired Ken Dorsey, the offense coordinator. They had Von Miller, who has allegedly acted like he's Ike Turner to his pregnant girlfriend's Tina. And you have Sean McDermott basically saying that, I'll save that for another time. But they came into this past Sunday's game with a lead and with under 2 minutes to go in Foxborough, and they lose that game. With a lead with 2 minutes to go at home against the Broncos, they lose that game. With a lead and under 2 minutes to go in Philly, they lose that game in overtime. So they have a lead with 2 minutes to go in Arrowhead, and they pull that game out. What needs to happen for the Bills to build off of their win at Arrowhead?
The same officiating crew needs to be officiating this next game. I mean, that's the only way the Bills won that game, man. So with the same officiating crews coming to the next game, then you got a good shot to get back-to-back dubs against a good team.
Right. You were not right for that. And the Bills actually are favored by 2.5 in this one. Oh my gosh, you were not right for that. All right, so who do you have Bills officiating off the table to win this game? Oh my god!
Oh, I got the Cowboys. Cowboys are winning this game without that officiating crew. That's what's happening. Picking Dallas. I don't like picking Dallas, but I have to in this case.
I feel you. And I understand why. and so do I. I want to believe in the Bills, but the Bills have to be more physical than they have shown. For me to say they could beat the Cowboys, but the Cowboys can hang with physicality enough, and I think the Bills don't have enough physicality to overtake them. And because of that, I think the Cowboys will win this game too. Yes, I know this is still in Western New York. I think the Cowboys stand a good chance of winning this game. And plus, they want to build off of their momentum too. And I think they want to have a number 2 seed, although that means that they still would have to play a wild card round game. That still would still guarantee them at least 2 games at home. And it would guarantee them not to play the 49ers until the NFC Championship game, which I think that is the biggest motivating factor for them. To the Sunday night game, the Jaguars are 8-5. They host in Duval against the Ravens at 10-3. The kickoff is at 8:20, as all Sunday night games are. The Ravens are favored by 3.5. And speaking of the Ravens, so there are times when the pass rush is just swarming and quarterbacks don't even have time to breathe. And there's times you don't see it. And then there's times with the run offense where it's just that you can't stop them no matter who is carrying the ball. And then at other times they seem to abandon it. More often than not, they run it, but they seem to abandon it at times too. Which is more important for the Ravens to establish? Their run offense or their pass rush?
Pass rush. And I believe so for this game in particular, because Trevor Lawrence is coming off a game where he just threw 3 interceptions. A game that some people like Kyle Nash, student of the game, was actually saying on their show, the Duval Dive podcast they have on Fridays on Sartoba Media, bing, that this show, I had to do a Kyle Nash, bing, that's what he does after. Yeah, so when it comes to the situation here, bing, have to give the acknowledgement to Kyle Nash. I did a bing before a bing was actually needed. But he was giving a shout out to the fact that they should sit Trevor Lawrence in this past game to rest him up because he was already banged up. Because you're already making a playoff push, and you put him out there too soon, you can extend the injury, make it even worse, where they potentially miss more time, if not the rest of the season. What does he do? He goes up there, throws 3 interceptions. If the Ravens can capitalize on that by establishing a great pass rush throughout this game and bring the pressure and keep it on Trevor Lawrence, I feel like that's more important than utilizing the run offense.
I 100% agree with you. I think that's where the Ravens need to make hay, not just with the Jaguars, but they play the Dolphins later. They may have to eventually play the Chiefs. Definitely if they play the Broncos, because I think if you can make, I love this reference. If you can make Russell Wilson tap dance in the pocket, the chances are you can basically make the Broncos look horrible. The Ravens pass rush needs to awaken, and they need to be there and solid. And I 100% agree with you. That's where I think they need to be established, period. Because when they have it, everything else seems to be flowing smooth for them. Even on offense, if their pass rush is established, everything on offense, they seem to operate pretty well. On the other side of the ball, so the Jaguars earlier had a 5-game winning streak, and everything seemed to be flowing fine and flowing free and smooth. Now, unfortunately, they look at themselves and they are looking at the rearview mirror, and they see the Colts and the Texans only 1 game behind them. What can the Jaguars do to stop the bleeding?
You got to be smarter with their decision making on offense. There's not really much you can do to contain Lamar Jackson. And especially the type of defense that the Jaguars have, I don't feel like they're gonna have the right answers to stop Lamar Jackson completely, especially when he's using his legs. I think that the best way that they can stop the bleeding is to go score for score with them. You're going to have to be able to keep up. It's going to be the only way you're going to be able to win this thing is if you keep it a shootout. You're going back and forth, and the only way that you can do that is if Trevor Lawrence does not turn the ball over. So if the Ravens establish a good enough pass rush, then these questions aren't even going to come into factor, and the Ravens are going to win this game.
Correct.
If they have issues with establishing the pass rush and we have a shootout going back and forth as a result, we're going to have a close game. And I feel like that's the only way the Jaguars are going to be able to stay in it and actually win this game, because this Ravens team, when they're clicking on all cylinders, is a dangerous team to play.
They are too much. And I agree with you. Starts their pass rush when the opposing quarterback has no time in the pocket, you can forget it. You could just write a win for the Ravens right then and there. And I agree with you. Last year when these two teams played, that's exactly what happened. It turned into a shootout, although the Ravens had a huge lead, but the Jaguars fought back and won. Is that what you're predicting in this game? Are you saying that this is going to be a shootout and the Jaguars win? Or are you saying that the Ravens are going to dominate with putting Trevor Lawrence, a pretty wounded Trevor Lawrence, I may add, to the turf a few times in this game?
If this was like 3-4 weeks ago, I'd say we have a better shot at having a shootout. But with what you had just said about Trevor Lawrence being banged up, the fact that we saw him as a result of being banged up throwing 3 interceptions, there's not much that this week is going to do to make him any better. And you're playing a better team than you played last week. Right. I think that the Ravens are going to be a little bit too much for the Jaguars to handle. Jags fall to 8-6. The Ravens will definitely improve in this game to 11-3, and they're going to keep making noise until they get to the playoffs, believing too much of their hype and losing the first round.
And I would hate that for that. I'm saying this for a divisional rival. I would really hate that for them, simply because this team is young. And I'm understanding this is what the Texans are doing this year. They're young. They're building up steam. They're trying to get confidence in how to play. And now the Jaguars, they're to me, they're a couple years ahead of them. They have a divisional crown in hand. They have a playoff victory in hand as well. And this game, to me, if they lose this, it almost seems like it'll be a little bit of a step back. And unfortunately, I see them taking a step back. Not not as a football fan, not necessarily rooting for it. As a fan of the Texans, I am. But as a football fan, I'm not rooting for that. Because I want to see a good game, and I would love to see the shootout. But I mean, when they take the field, the Jaguars will have Trevor Lawrence only 13 days removed from his ankle being rolled. So, nah, I just don't see it. And it looks like Mickey agrees with us both. With the Colts, with the Steelers Colts, he says it'll be the Steelers. The Cowboys Bills, he says it's going to be the Cowboys. And for the Ravens Jags, he says the Ravens will take it. And what we'll be taking is a commercial break right now. And when we come back, somebody's going to be on the chopping block, and we're going to award a snowflake. Oh, yeah. It's going to get mighty chilly.
Next, the chopping block and snowflake of the week. This is Total Football Talk. Join Ryan McCarthy.
I became a Jets fan because Kermit the Frog was my favorite Muppet because he was green, and the Jets wore green. That's how I became a Jets fan.
And Dustin Henry.
ESPN is cashing all in on let's pay a few personalities and we'll just kind of fill in the gaps.
As they walk you through all of the world of sports from their perspective.
The Albany Empire, it's a literal circus.
No credentials required. Where, Ryan, say the tag.
Where you don't need a press pass to talk sports.
Every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. On YouTube and where you can find all podcasts. This is a BS3 Network presentation.
I want to do a TED Talk, but I don't have anything to talk about yet. I'm getting there.
Life is for the living. We're not here that long.
You can learn anything you want to learn without any money spent.
What do I really enjoy? What do I really want out of life?
I am your host, WIZE.
Are you in a life-holding pattern? Well, this is for you. Welcome to the Stuck in My Mind podcast. Live every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 4 p.m. Central. Football, and more football, you say? Well, tune in to Total Football Talk. Join your hosts, Drew Willingham.
You were playing like a dumpster Pelican quarterback.
And Cole Johnson.
It sets up a possible play action. Did you hear that, Dak Prescott?
As they take you through all the paces, both on the field and in the boardroom, of Total Football Talk. Every Tuesday at
9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central.
Exclusively on the Sertoba Media and the Comey Media Incorporated YouTube channel.
Welcome back to Total Football Talk with Drew Willingham. I am Cole Johnson, working through a couple of technical difficulties before we do continue. It won't take too long. I solid analysis, man, from you. I totally agree with you about the Ravens Jaguars game. I think the Jaguars need to make it a shootout. I agree with you there.
That's the only way I feel like they can stay alive.
Mm-hmm.
But while Cole's figuring out the technical difficulties, I'll go ahead and use this moment to bring us some of this. That's right. After a 2.5 month hiatus, it is time to bring back the show that started it all for me. That being the In or Out Sports Debate is finally back. Episode 105, a very special edition. The last episode of 2023. Had to find time to get it in. And that will be next Monday at 8:05 p.m. Eastern, as the following 2 Mondays of the year will be Christmas Day and New Year's. So figured it would be best to go ahead and get it in while I could. Monday will be the day that this show will be back. This will be the time frame that it will be on. going forward after the holidays. But we get one more episode in 2023.
I think I got my swagger back. Oh.
Oh, yes. Now you heard it here first. In Around is back, baby. Yes. Yes. One show to end the year, and then starting January 8th, every Monday, 8:05 p.m. Eastern. Yes.
The
Yes,
day
I'm
after
happy.
my birthday, it is back full time.
Oh, okay. So I know yet another Capricorn in my life. Okay, that's good to know. And my father's on the 3rd. Let me see.
Nice.
Mhm.
That's the day after Elvis. Wish it could have been the day before. It would have been nice to share a birthday with Elvis, the king. But the day after is cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's still cool. All right. No technical difficulties. Now, something is going in the chopping block. Well, with that 3-0 victory over the Raiders, that sounds so strange to say. It looks like Justin Jefferson will be returning to being on the field. Now he had a chest injury that in the first half of that game that basically ruined all of football, period. But speaking after the game, the coach of the Vikings, Kevin O'Connell, he said the team, well, they're not so sure who is going to really start. Not sure who's going to be the guy moving forward. He wasn't ready to name that guy. And so my question to you, sir, is this the end of the Joshua Dobbs honeymoon in Minneapolis?
You know, we may have to cue the end of the road song. We may have to cue that song from the 90s and just play it for him. But, you know, I can't get so upset. The kid's 2-2 in his 4 games with the Minnesota Vikings. Okay.
Right.
He's 5 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Are they great numbers? No. Are they as good as the numbers that he had in Arizona? No, because he had 3 more touchdowns and interceptions there. As far as the completion percentage on his passing, they're about the same. He was 62.8% in Arizona, 62.9% in Minnesota. You know, in the games played, you know, out of the 5 games, he's had 4 starts. That's why he's compiled the 2-2 record. You know, there's definitely ways we could critique Josh Dobbs and what he's doing with the Vikings, but really, what else do they have? I mean, they won the game 3-0, you know, based on how their defense was playing in that game. I don't even know if they, you know, the only other person that they could have pulled off the street is Joe Flacco, who the Browns did. But he fits the type of scheme of that offense for the Browns a little bit better than what, you know, he would have in Minnesota, because the way Minnesota's offensive line and Cleveland's offensive line is a little bit different, to where, you know, the offensive line has some question marks in Minnesota, just like in New York. And ironically, both of those offensive lines cost their starting quarterback their Achilles.
Yep.
Okay. So when you look at the situation, you have to be pretty mobile in order to play for both of those teams. Aaron Rodgers, almost 40, not going to be as mobile as Joshua Dobbs. Same thing with Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is more known for being a pocket quarterback during his time with Washington and then with Minnesota, because you had RG3, who was the mobile quarterback, and Kirk Cousins, who was the pocket quarterback. They were 2 totally different quarterbacks at play. Just like here in Minnesota, you have similarities here. Pocket quarterback goes down because offensive line not giving the protection. Josh Dobbs, yeah, he's a little mobile, but he's not as cerebral as Kirk Cousins is. So when he has to dance back there in the pocket, and then he has to sling the ball, he might not make the same type of decisions Kirk Cousins would make. You can't grade a guy that you just traded for who had just come off the street and has played for 4 or 5 different teams in the past 2 seasons. You can't really grade him towards the same hype that you would for one Captain Kirk Cousins. So when it comes to this situation right here, the honeymoon being over in Minneapolis, I think for them it is, but I think they're pulling the plug a little bit too soon, and they had a little bit too high expectations based on what he did in those first 2 games since being traded from the previous team that he was with the Cardinals.
Yeah, good point. You used to be mine when the chips were down. Oh, well. When I wasn't around.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
And you did just give him the business.
Well, others who were giving referees the business would be the Chiefs. Now, for a second straight week, Patrick Mahomes was rather frustrated, and the Chiefs were left talking about the refs yet again. But this time is after an offside penalty call on wide receiver Kadarius Toney was that negated would have been an epic finish versus the Bills on Sunday. The penalty was correct. I'm sorry. The penalty was a 49-yard touchdown that featured a crossfield lateral from tight end Travis Kelce to Toney, and that would have given them the lead with just about a minute to go in the game. But Mahomes in the post game said this to the press. Quote, I played 7 years, never had an offensive offsides called. That's elementary school stuff we're talking about. There was no warning throughout the entire game. Then you wait until there's a minute left in the game to make a call like that. It's tough. Loss of words, it's tough. Regardless if we win or lose, just the end of another game and we're talking about the refs. It's just not what we want for the NFL and for football. What you want as a competitor is you practice all week to go out there and try to win. And you wanted to be about your team and that team and see what happens. You don't want to be talking about this stuff after the game. Now, I'm not worried about if there was a flag on the next player or whatever, not a flag. I want to go out there and play and then see what happens at the end. See what the score is, and then I can live with the result. Close quote. Here is your result, one Mr. Mahomes. Your team Sunday, because your wide receiver lined up in the neutral zone, took it. I'm sorry, that was in my spirit. I'm sorry, sir. Now, he and Andy Reid complained about officiating. Do the NFL officials need a complete overhaul?
I mean, in certain cases, I feel like they should. I mean, looking at the outside of that game, looking at one of the Monday Night Football games last night, and there was a defensive call, a defensive penalty that was called for delay of game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was a defensive delay of game penalty called. I believe it was on the Dolphins last night. I
never knew you could be a defender and be called for delay of game. Really? Wow.
That's what I'm saying. So some of these off the wall calls that are being made. Now, I get your argument with Toney. Okay,
I do too.
But when it comes to the overall scope of the officials that are calling anywhere between 14 and 16 games per week, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And you think about the amount of officials that you would have to call those 14 to 16 games per week.
Mm-hmm.
In me watching football for 30 some odd years, the time that I've been on this planet, and you being older than me and still cannot recall a time when there was a defensive delay of game penalty being called. It's like they're pulling some of these things out of their rear end. Okay.
Yes, I agree.
As far as calls to be made. And the one Kadarius Toney and the one that cost them that play, I forgive a little bit more than I do for the defensive delay of game penalty that gave Tennessee a little bit more breathing room, allowed that to score that final touchdown, and we have the game end the way that it did. Okay, because it gave them where the call was made, it gave them half the distance to the goal on that final drive. So putting the game more into the hands of the officials when it's weird, the first 58 minutes of the game, you're letting all this stuff slide because there's several arguments that could be made that there's been other moments within the first 58 minutes of the game where you could be making these calls. If you're going to let them play for 58 minutes, you might as well let them play for the other 2 minutes as well. I don't see where you have to amp things up more in the last 2 minutes if you're not willing to make the same call 20 minutes prior to that. Okay. I have no problem with some of these calls being made within the final 2 minutes as long as you're going to call it equally
fair
throughout the entire contest. What that does is, and what I think people are afraid of, is these officials call these calls 10, 12 other times in the game. It's going to extend the gameplay a little bit more. Well, from the fans' perspective, give us a little bit more time to watch the game. Okay. And call it right. Call the thing right from start to finish instead of deciding within the last 2 minutes you're going to open the rule book and start calling the penalties in that point in the game. That's the problem that I have. So when it comes to your question here of do the NFL officials need a complete overhaul, I believe they do, or they need to at least have some type of meetings throughout the offseason and say, you guys need to get more consistent about calling these penalties throughout the entire duration of the game instead of making it happen in the last 2 minutes of the game. Because this is a game that's against competitor versus competitor, not competitor versus the refs, okay? Because the big problem that I have off subject, and especially with what I do in the summertime, coaching, playing, whatever it's been over the past 5-6 years, baseball or whatnot. And the biggest issue I have, and especially with that, is when we're playing somebody else and the umpires is getting involved in the game to where the game's affected by the umpire and the calls they're made, whether it's ball or strike in baseball. Same thing here with football, where the calls are in the hands way too much of the officials. And if you're going to call New York and get them to overturn calls, they should have the same ability to overturn stupid penalties, especially like a defensive delay of game, because who in the right mind calls a defensive delay of game? You don't even see that in the game of Madden. You see everything in Madden. If you don't see it in Madden, you shouldn't see it on TV. And that's how I feel when it comes to these stupid calls by these stupid officials on any given Sunday, Monday, Thursday, and now even Saturdays.
Yeah, and on the day after Thanksgiving, Friday as well.
Start on Black Friday football, Cole. Do not get me started on Black Friday football. BFF. BFF. I just thought about that. Awesome. Black Friday football. Who's your new BFF, bro?
BFF the way you don't ever want to hear it. Oh gosh.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
The tush push, the brotherly shove, whatever you want to call the Eagles seemingly go to 4th and inches or even 3rd and inches play. It has been extremely successful and borderline unstoppable for the defending NFC champs. In fact, Nick Sirianni, he says that, look, every first time to him basically is like a 1st and 9, not a 1st and 10, because they have a lot of faith in the play. In fact, the Eagles have the highest 4th down conversion rate in the league, and it converted 14 of 19 of them. But as successful as it is, there's a push to want it to be banned, and many fans and even some coaches have said that it needs to go. Now, my question to you is, should this play be banned at all?
The name should be banned. The play itself, no. But the name, no. Should not. But the actual play, no. Should not be banned. The name, yes. Overall, I'm not mad at it because it's helped decide several different games throughout the course of history. In many of the years, even back before the Super Bowl era. This play in itself, the quarterback draw, HB dive, whatever you want to call it, right up the gut, with a little bit of help of your teammates, it's definitely been part of history. So I can't get mad at that. If you've got the ability and the strength to run it and make it happen in your favor, run it. Call it something else. The brotherly shove, the tush push. I mean, it's sounding, when you call it the tush push, it sounds more like a softcore film. Okay? It doesn't sound like it should be part of the game of football or any sport. It feels like it should be part of a softcore film from the 80s or 90s. So that's my thought when it comes to the tush push, the TP. You use TP on your rear end not to get it pushed.
Oh my gosh. Not the tush push. It's sounding like, oh Lord. Okay. Oh my gosh. That is shopping block. And no, it should not be banned. The name, I agree, the name should be banned, but the play, no. Find a way to stop it. Goodness gracious.
Total Football Talk.
Oh, yes, we are 2 weeks away from Christmas, but no, this is not a Christmas theme. This is the Snowflake of the Week segment. And this is where we award the player or coach or executive or anybody affiliated with NFL being horrible. And with his Snowflake, I turn it over to Drew.
I do not want to do this week, but I have to. And I definitely don't want to use the player in question that I have to. But we're going to do this. All right, people.
Let me talk to you.
In this moment alone, I'm going to go off on one player that I didn't even think from the start of this season and how he was playing to this point right here that I did not think that I was going to have to go off on him. And if I did, I would expect you to say this.
Stop it. Get some help.
Oh, yeah. What? Absolutely. I am having a hard time getting the words out to say who my Snowflake of the Week is.
Okay.
But I have to, based on the way that they... You lost to a kid with the middle name Capoto. He has the middle name Capoto, and you lost to him. And you show up in this game, and you had 10 completions on 23 yards and 91 passing yards. I have to give my Snowflake of the Week to someone that we just had a topic a few weeks ago about. Is he in the MVP conversation? How can he be in the MVP conversation if you throw less than 100 yards in a game? You have 91 yards! 91 yards in a game!
Stop it. Get some help.
CJ Stroud, you are my Snowflake of the Week. And that is my pick on this 15th episode of Total Football Talk.
You have done my heart well. Thank you. Thank you. I did not even have to say a syllable. Oh my. Yeah, and yeah. Memo to those who were pushing for Stroud to be MVP. You saw that Sunday. Are you putting him in MVP now? I don't think so. Like I said, the kid has to learn. Goodness gracious. Good job, brother. So I was just minding my own business. I was this is not the only show I do, obviously. You know, there's other shows I prepare for. And last week was a really good week because I was on other shows as a guest. And yeah, I mean, I could take it all the way off the rails and throw it at Governor Ron DeSantis, but he's not affiliated with football at all. He's not even affiliated with the NFL. But after I had a laugh with that, I saw that there was a report that was put forth to me about a talk that a coach had back in 2019. And he actually said that they should be a team, and the teamwork should be as solid as the 9/11 hijackers.
Delete! 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 Delete!
No, not the number 911. No, September 11, 2001. And he profusely apologized. Then he profusely apologized last week. But the fact that he even thought this in the first place, and he resides in the state where it happened, it makes me question his thought process altogether. And who is the guy I'm talking about? The head coach of the Buffalo Bills, Sean McDermott. Son, why? Why would that even come out your mouth? I don't even live in the state. Forget the city. I don't even live in the state of New York. And I know I shouldn't even talk to anybody. And I now manage a team myself. I would never say I want us to be a team like the hijackers were that took down the World Trade Center. Come on, Sean. You got to know better than this, son. And, you know, there's others I could have picked. I could have chosen CJ Stroud too, but thankfully my brother took care of that. I mean, I could have awarded the whole Steelers team, but that's okay. You know, I could have awarded both the Vikings and the Raiders, but I say, nah, I'll let that slide. Because, Mr. McDermott, you don't want to ever have a team be as evil, I think that's a good way of putting it, as the teamwork of the 9/11 hijackers. So, Mr. McDermott, you definitely earned this because, son, you might even go to the Super Bowl and lose, but this will be the biggest you'll ever take. Come on, brother.
The 2-minute drill is next. This is Total Football Talk. Hey, Eagles fan. Join my man Cool McCain and a host of others as they break down every single game, every single week in an objective manner, and also from a fan's perspective as well. Remember, this cast feels just like you. Nobody likes you. And you don't care. Fly, Eagles, fly. Eagles Elite Podcast. Every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and other podcast outlets. Oh, yes. The tradition, the pageantry, the spectacle, the history, the slut. Wait. I gotta rep my brother's stuff right. All my DMV soldiers, stand up! And welcome to the Commander's Gridiron Report. You want your Commanders to be repped right? Well, D. Willie is your man. Commander's Gridiron Report, every Monday at 3:05 p.m. Eastern, 2:05 p.m. Central, exclusively on the Sertoba Media YouTube channel. Music by J. Cool.
Where my soldiers? Right side. Commanders. Where my soldiers? Left side.
Join the transporter to Hades.
Your butt and gut becomes one.
Join the reformer of hooker whores.
This is my daughter, Placenta Booty Johnson.
Join the bronze guard.
Whenever you are in distress, take off your baseball cap and throw it in the air.
Join your very own superhero of broadcasting, Chris Bass.
So whatever color crayon they get, they palm it and do 2 circles, and that translates to, I can be the black people.
As she takes you through the week's paces in Baseline. Live every Saturday at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central, Pacific time zone people, just stay asleep when this is on live and just catch the recording. Oh, I'm sorry. Exclusively on the Chris Bass YouTube channel.
And down the stretch we come on Total Football Talk. I was thinking tying Drew's show, Commander's Gridiron Report, with Total Football Talk in my head with Drew Willingham and Cole Johnson. And yes, check that show out every Mondays, 3:05 Eastern, 2:05 Central. Yesterday he had Gandy Waller on, and the two of them with their breadth of knowledge of Commanders football, both with history and with logistics. If you're a fan of the team, you will get your money's worth with the both of them. I mean, you get your money's worth with either one of them individually, but you definitely get your money's worth with both of them. Great show yesterday. Yeah,
it was like a flash in the pan of what I deal with on Tuesdays. I mean, I had a lot of fun with Candy. It was 30 minutes of greatness, but that 30 minutes of greatness doesn't come close to the 3 hours of greatness that we have on this show every Tuesday. So as much as we were just talking about during the commercial break where, now we're rounding third and heading home, and it's like the bittersweet moment. I love it because at least we know we got next Tuesday to look forward to.
That's right. We do. But as for this show, we're not done yet because this Tuesday now is at the portion of the 2-minute drill. And of course, this is where we pick the best of the rest. And join along with us in the PSF chat. And definitely join along with us, like with Mickey as well, because he's already started. He's already picked his team. Teams for every game. You do the same. And the games are in. If you're watching this on YouTube, the game is in the description below. And we will start with Thursday night's tilt. The Raiders at home at 5-8, hosting the fellow 5-8 Los Angeles Chargers. The Raiders are favored. I don't know why they even want to even have them play this game. Just for this fact that this team is just a dumpster fire in the making. Who do you have, sir?
I think it's going to end in a 0-0 tie.
Oh, gosh.
It's that bad.
It might. That's the sad part. It actually might end in a 0-0 tie.
I've never picked that before in my entire life, so I'm going to pick it this weekend for this game. A serious pick. I think it's going to end in a tie. Might not be 0-0, but this game's going to be so bad it's going to end in a tie.
Oh my gosh.
I'll probably be wrong, but I kind of want to be right on this one. If I'm right, I will play the lottery next week.
Oh Lord, the Raiders are favored by 3, but oh gosh, that's ridiculous. All right. To the other Saturday slate of games, the one that kicks off week 15. Oh, and before I continue, the buys are done. No more buys for the rest of the year. Everybody has had their bye weeks. So it's all 32 teams playing on the stress drive. The Vikings at 7. And speaking of stress drive, the Vikings are 7-6 in the NFC. The Bengals are 7-6 in the AFC. They match up in Cincy. The kickoff is at Saturday, 1 p.m. And the Bengals are 3.5-point favorites. Who do you have for this one, sir?
Jake Browning continues to utilize the pterodactyl juice, gets it going, and will get the win in this game to improve the Bengals to 8-6. Pterodactyl juice in the making for this kid. Definitely going to get it done in this game.
Pterodactyl juice. Okay. Yeah, the Bengals should win this game, but I don't know about the pterodactyl juice, but I'll just moving right along. The Lions, they are 9-4. They're licking their wounds off of that L they took at the hands of the Bears. They host the Broncos at 7-6, another 7-6 AFC team. 8:15 is the kick on Saturday night. The Lions are favored by 5. Who do you have, sir?
Based on the way the Lions fell apart this past weekend and based on the way the Broncos have been coming up the past 6 weeks, I think I'm going to have to pick the Broncos this week. I may be wrong. I may be right. But based on the way this Broncos team's playing and what I've been picking over the past month when it comes to this Broncos team, I've been completely wrong. And I'm picking the Broncos team this week because I want to be wrong. And I want the Lions to win. But based on the way the Lions played last weekend, I can't put all my money on the Lions. I have to go with the Broncos for this game.
You may be right. I may be crazy. Hey, but I just might be the lunatic you're looking for. I'm sorry, my bad. Thank you, Billy Joel. Love that song, sir. I want to lean Broncos because I just think that this might actually be one of those games where the Lions just aren't getting up for it and they lose. Just so that because they just, I think they had the air just out of their sails. But watch it get proven wrong. But I'm going to go with the Broncos in this one. Not that I'm rooting for the Broncos. That's just so I think. I'm rooting for the Lions, actually. But And now we get to the Sunday 1 p.m. slate of games. The first of them being the Browns at 8-5. They host the Bears at 5-8. The Browns are favored by a field goal. Now, who do you have in this one?
If Joe Flacco does not get signed off the practice squad this week.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. But if he doesn't get signed off the practice squad this week, they will beat the Bears and improve to 9-5. The Bears will fall to 5-9. If Joe Flacco gets signed off of the practice squad, the Browns will still win the game against the Bears and improve to 9 wins. That's my pick. The Browns will win this game.
So the Browns will win the game either way. Okay, gotcha.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, okay, fine. I'll say the Browns too. Why not? I just don't have the faith in Bears. I don't know if they can put two winning performances in a row. The Packers, 7-6. I'm sorry, 6-7. My bad. They are 6-7. They are hosting the fellow 6-7 Buccaneers, two teams that are fighting for the 7th seed, and the Buccaneers are also fighting to hold on to the NFC South lead. The Packers are 3.5-point faves. Who do you have in this one, sir?
The way they played this past weekend, I would want to take the Tampa Bay's team name, take a B out of there, and put an F. Is how I'd want to play, and that's what I'd want to call them right now. But unfortunately, we are on the air, and I cannot call them that name. But I want to. And that's how I feel like they're going to play this weekend, with an F in front of the B, silent B, as they will be playing the Green Bay Packers. Now, Packers lost to a Tony Don't Call Me Tommy DeVito-led team last night. So they're a little suspect. And that could be just enough suspect for the Tampa Bay minus the B plus an F to come in here and take the win against the Packers. But you're going to be at Lambeau Field. They're going to have something to prove. The Green Bay Packers have a little bit more playoff hopes as far as a type of team that can go into the playoffs and make some noise. I think the Green Bay Packers get this win at home this weekend.
I agree. I don't really have much hope in the Buccaneers on the road. Now they might surprise me, but I want to see a better performance out of that offense, because I think that defense is left out to dry too many times when that offense not performing the way they should. But yeah, I think the Packers will take it. Another Sunday 1 p.m. kick. The Titans at 5-8. They host the Texans at 7-6. The Titans are favored by 2.5. And I am royally upset because I will be seeing the Titans don the Oilers uniform a second time this year. And those chumps don't deserve to wear that uniform. I'm sorry.
I mean, since it's close to home, are you going to actually go in person and watch the game? You're going to be off. You won't have to work the next day.
Yeah, you're right. I could, but
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, to the no.
If they weren't wearing those uniforms, you probably would.
Exactly.
You would at least think about it a little bit. You give it a little bit more thought. But I don't blame you. It's like a slap in the face watching those uniforms.
It is. It really is. Titans are favored by 2.5. Who do you have with this one?
If Davis Mills is the starting quarterback for Houston, Tennessee's going to win this game. If CJ Stroud starts this game healthily, then the Texans will win this.
Texans will win it.
If the Texans start CJ Stroud with question marks and red flags above him based on the lingering effects from this past weekend, you're going to lose the game.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way the Texans win this game is if CJ Stroud bounces back with no lingering effects and the entire team plays around him to where he doesn't have to make big extended plays throughout the game, to where he can just play the quarterback position and that's it. And not having to extend the plays with his legs or dance around or whatnot. If the entire team plays around him, you have to have CJ Stroud in the game, and you have to have the entire team clicking on all cylinders on both sides of the ball. That way, the Texans will get the win. But if there's any question at the quarterback position, and the Titans show up like they did last night, the Titans are going to win that game. And based on what I saw last night, and the lingering effects for CJ Stroud, until I have some type of confirmation later in the week, if it's right now on Tuesday, I'm sorry, Cole, but I got to pick the Titans.
Well, of course, I'm rooting for the Texans to win, obviously. But to show you that I am unbiased, I actually think the Titans are going to win it. I actually think the Titans are going to win this game because I don't think CJ Stroud will be 100%. I really don't. And Davis Mills, I got a chance to see 2 years of work with him. That team does not respond to him at all on the center. And could they pull a victory out of their hat? Of course. And could they do it without CJ Stroud? Of course. However, I don't think they are. And then double that with a team now motivated because they actually beat one of the top 3 seeds in the AFC in a game that they had no rights winning. They were down 14 with 3 minutes to go, and they win the game before it goes to overtime. That normally is like a rocket booster for a team. So actually, I'm going to be picking the Titans to win this game too. Hurts horribly, but yes. Again, to show that I am not a biased guy.
Yeah.
Mickey says he has the Vikings. I'm sorry, he has the Vikings, he has the Raiders, he has the Broncos, he has the Bears, he has the Bucks, and in the game that we just said, he says he has the Texans. Well, thank you. I'm glad.
I hope you're right.
Than I do. Yeah, I hope you're right too.
I hope you're right, but I just have to go based on what we have as the information as of right now.
And I agree with you, and that's how I'm doing it. Let me see. So you have the Jets at 5-8. They are traveling to South Beach to play the Dolphins, who are licking their chops with the Jets, but licking their wounds at 9-4. The Dolphins, they are favored by 9.5. Now, who do you have in this one, sir?
I think the Dolphins got humbled yesterday. And I also think that the last time the Jets had some type of blowout win earlier this year with from the hands of Capono. They got humbled the following week. This is going to be the game that finally cements the Aaron Rodgers not coming back this season deal, okay? Because when they lose one more game, they won't have a possibility of having a winning record. Because they've already got, 8 losses.
Mm-hmm.
So if they win this week, then we'll see Aaron Rodgers probably play against the Commanders the following weekend for Christmas.
Gosh.
Okay. But they have to win this week.
I'm now ill.
The only way the Dolphins lose this game against the Jets is if Tyreek Hill's injury to his ankle is lingering on a little bit too long and they have to sit him this game, because the entire identity of Miami's offense is in question when he's not in the game. Tua, as a great quarterback, as a MVP caliber quarterback, is in serious question when Tyreek Hill is not in the game.
Yeah.
Tua stayed healthy all year long. Okay. Luckily, knock on some wood. Okay. But when it comes to that, when it comes to that situation right there, without Tyreek Hill, you can't guarantee the Dolphins a victory, as we saw last night. So we're going to have to see how the rest of this week pans out. If I were to say right now, the Dolphins are not going to have Tyreek Hill, as they want to be careful with him going to the playoffs or in this, that, and the third, I would say that the Jets have a really good chance of winning this game if they can drop 30 dimes like they did this past weekend. It's going to be tough, but the Dolphins team defensively is not as good as they are offensively. So there's a good chance for the Jets to put up that amount of points in this game. If Tyreek Hill is out, Jets win. If Tyreek Hill is in, Dolphins win.
All right, well, let me see. How can I do this?
Let me talk to you.
I'll put it to you like this. It'll be this simple, this cut and dried. If a garbage man is under center for the Dolphins, they will beat the Jets. Lord, I really don't have faith in the Jets. Let me check. I don't have faith in the Jets offense to do what they did against the Texans against the Dolphins. What they could, but I don't have faith in them to do that. I have faith in them to just to bunker it up, as you used with another quarterback. And I would love to say that, I think the Jets can be buoyed off of that win and shock the Dolphins and have them lose a second straight game at home. I don't see it happening. The game that was Monday night, thank God it's not any longer. The Chiefs at 8-5. They traveled to Foxborough to play the 3-10 Patriots. And the Chiefs are a touchdown and a field goal favorite. Who do you have in this one?
Chiefs all day. Next team.
100. Mike Jones, Bailey Zappi, Bill Belichick, don't matter who you have, Bill O'Brien, don't matter who you have in the center. The Chiefs are going to destroy the Patriots. The Saints. The hard luck Saints at 6-7. They host the Giants at 5-8. Again, a Sunday 1 p.m. kick. The Saints, they are favored by 4.5 points. I'm sorry. I'm laughing because I'm seeing this odds and it says Saints are favored by 45. But I believe they missed a decimal point. So Saints are favored by 4.5. Who do you have, sir?
I don't think they should be favored at all based on how Derek Carr played this past weekend. And the fact that the Giants came back against a pretty good Green Bay Packers team, yesterday. Because of all that being said, based on the way the Saints played this past weekend, based on the way the Tony Don't Call Me Tommy played, I'm giving it to the Giants.
So he says, Tommy Don't Call Me Tony DeVito is going to pull out another one, this time in the Caesars Superdome. Okay, nice. Okay. What the hey? I'll be contrarian. I guess I'll go with the Saints, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants win it, though. I would not be surprised at all. And the last of the 1 p.m. Sunday slate, the Carolina Panthers at an abysmal 1-12, which has Chicago ones happy because they own the number 1 overall pick because of the Panthers giving them that pick. They are hosting the Falcons, who are 6-7, and they're trying to chase the Bucks and hold off the Saints for the NFC South supremacy title. The Falcons are favored by a field goal. Who do you have?
I don't even know how they're only up by a field goal over a team that's only got 1 win all year. That goes to show how bad the Falcons are.
Yes.
But with that being said, I got to give the win to Artie Smith and the Falcons. They're going to get this win. It may be ugly, but they're going to win over the Panthers and move it up to 7-7 for the record.
Yeah, I don't see what the Panthers can do against them. This should be the Falcons. This game should not even be. It probably will be competitive, but it's probably not going to be. Sunday 4:05, the Rams at 6-7. Hard luck, tough loss to the Ravens. They host the Commanders, your beloved Commanders, Drew, at 4-9. The Commanders are 6.5 road underdogs. Who do you have, sir?
I feel like of the remaining 4 games on the Commanders' schedule, this is their best chance to get a win out of the 4 teams, but I don't think that they will. The Rams, with the 3-game winning streak up until this past weekend when they lost to the Ravens, they proved to the Ravens that they are a playoff contender, or at least to make the playoffs, and I don't think anything changes. The Commanders have fallen apart. They will lose this game to the Rams in LA. The Rams will move back to a 500 record, and the Commanders will slip to their 10th loss of the season.
Not because I hate the Commanders. I agree with you because that's a great assessment. And the Commanders fall to the Rams, but that's going to be a good game, though. I know that there's such cold comfort, but the Commanders. I look at this game being similar to how they played in Seattle. It's going to be good. It's going to be nip and tuck. The Commanders are going to fight, but unfortunately, they're going to fall at the end of the game. And I think we're going to see that similar type of game with the Rams in SoFi this coming Sunday. The Cardinals at 3-10 at a 4:25 p.m. kick in the desert. 2:25 local time. They will lose to they will play the 10-3 San Francisco 49ers. Not bad. I did not mean to say that. The 49ers are 13. The Eagles on Monday night, they are 10-3. Do you actually think the Cardinals are going to win that? Come on.
No, you're right. They're going to get mollywopped.
Come on. Bishop, do you think the Colts even stand a chance against the 49ers, even if it's in the desert?
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, to the no.
Lord.
I still want to get my hands on the Bishop's hat. I love that hat.
Yeah, that hat is nice. The Monday night tilt, the Eagles are 10-3. They're coming off of a 2-game losing streak. They're battling the Seahawks, who are also free falling at 6-7. The kick is at 8:15 on Monday night, and there's only one Monday night game this week instead of 2 that we had yesterday. The Eagles are 3.5-point favorites. Who do you have, sir?
I think the Eagles will rebound, get their 11th win of the year. And, looking at how this game's going to go overall, it may be an okay game. The Seahawks are going to play up to their level a little bit, but I think if the Seahawks get their 8th loss of the season and the Eagles get their 11th and get back on track.
Here's the good. Well, Sunday night was sort of like bad news, good news. The bad news is they might struggle to hold on to the number 1 seed in the AFC. But the good news is if they win out, doesn't matter what the Cowboys do, the Eagles will win the NFC East. So even though they're the number 5 seed currently, the Eagles win out, they probably end up having no worse than number 2 seed and they'll win the NFC East. So a lot is still in play for the Eagles. Well, that concludes this week's 2-minute drill. I hope you enjoyed it. And Mickey, thank you so much for participating. I love the action and activity there, sir.
Thanks, Vic.
Total Football Talk.
As long as it's one. Oh, it's great. I love it. I hope it actually is recording. Listening to it.
And I totally appreciate the love, Mick. Thank you so much, sir. Wise and I love doing mentality. And speaking of mentality, my brother, Wise Lefe. And I saw that you all had a stuck in my mind Te yesterday too. Good afternoon, brother. Hope everything's good with you, man.
Yeah, thanks for joining in there, Wise. And I had a little fun in the comments with Wise yesterday, talking back and forth while he was doing Stuck in My Mind, because his guest kind of bailed on him a little bit, didn't show up or whatnot. And me and Mick were kind of going back and forth. The comments kept Wise going, so that was definitely a fun one.
I know he appreciated it. And now we are at the part of the show where we call it the post game. This is where we have our final thoughts and we dispense them to you. And for his final thought, we'll go to Drew.
Well, first of all, I got to piggyback off of what Mick said with what you and Wise did yesterday. A great show. It's definitely with the coverage with P. Diddy and, the allegations that he's now involved in and the stuff. Yes. So you guys definitely brought the fire and the entertainment. And, of course, a lot of censorship for Wise El Jefe, as always, because I know when it comes to censoring stuff, because I got to do the same thing for D. Willie in the evening. You definitely got to put a little extra work in that editing. So Cole definitely crushed it, as always. And another great episode from you guys. Definitely love watching it.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. When it comes to football this week, there's not much more that Cole and I can break down when it comes to the game of football, or at least on my end. I was just glad not have to watch the Commanders this past weekend, just to be honest. Didn't have to watch it, and it made me feel a little bit more refreshed. And Cole was like wondering where this energy came from to start the show. It's because I wasn't depressed from watching the Commanders. I'd have to spend 3 hours of my day watching a pitiful team that's going to make me sad. Okay. So I am here with this energy on this morning / afternoon because I didn't have to watch the commies be commies. So this has been a fun episode. Another great one for episode 15. I appreciate you guys sticking around. Mick being in the comments, Victor Locke, Wise El Jefe, those of you here, definitely bringing the energy for us and helping keep elevating things the way they were. I have to get myself on down the road to work, but definitely another great 3+ hours with Cole. Looking forward to it next week and doing another great episode with him on this show.
Oh, man. Thank you so much. Thank you for this. It's an honor and it's a treat to do this with you. Oh, man. All right. The football side of things. We're now down to the last 4 weeks of the regular season, and true to form, we are actually having some battles. I mean, in NFC, you're now having 3 teams at 10-3, jockeying for supremacy between the 49ers, Cowboys, and the Eagles. While at the bottom of the charts, so to speak, even though the Panthers, even though the Buccaneers hold the number 4 seed right now, they're locked in a battle with the Saints and the Falcons for the NFC South Championship. And along with that, you got the Vikings looking over their shoulder at the Packers, the Rams, the Falcons, the Saints, and all of them, and the Rams, all at 6 and 7, hoping that none of them trip the Vikings up. It is a free-for-all in the NFC, and in the AFC is the same thing, for the slight exception of the top, because it looks like the Ravens can actually solidify the number 1 seed if they could just simply play the way they're playing and take care of the Jaguars this Sunday and then take care of the Dolphins a little later. But the 6th and the 7th seed of the AFC may have to come down to the final week of the season between the Steelers, the Colts, the Texans, the Broncos, the Bills, and I keep thinking I'm forgetting another team. All of them are tied at 7-6, but the Steelers and the Colts, they have the strongest conference record of all of them. And they play off, as we have said earlier. No, they play actually the early Saturday kick, so it's exciting. We're now down to we're getting an understanding. So who's going to be that team? Who's going to be who's gonna have that run? And I love it. I love it. For the off the football stuff, Wyatt says he appreciates Mick and D Willie for holding him down yesterday. And look, I totally appreciate this. I appreciate the platform. I appreciate what you all bring, the energy that you give us, the energy you even give me. And this is a love that I didn't think I would actually have the ability to elocute like this until now. And when I had this conversation with Drew of actually coming with a football program and this unearthed, man, I didn't think it was going to be the way it is. But now 15 weeks later, look at where we are. And it is an absolute joy. And it's great. It's great to hear your colleagues say, I look forward to this day of the week because of you. And that is what I really do treasure. So to all of you, thank you. And to the NFL, thank you. Even with the refs just screwing things up the way they are, we appreciate all that you do. And here's to Christmas, New Year's, and the Sunday after New Year's, when we actually try to find out who's going to be the last game of the season, who's going to go in, and who's going to stay out of the playoffs. Thank you.
As long as it's one. Oh, it's great. I love it. Actually, I was getting to I hope it actually is recording. Listening to it.
Anything for the Total Football Talk audience before we let them go, sir?
Hey, thank you as always, guys, for tuning in. And Wise, not a problem with the help on holding it down. I definitely heard Cole in the background as I was getting some things together. Sorry, guys, I was like jumping off for a second, jump back on because I'm like getting ready to hit the road and head to work. But as Cole just stated, Tuesday, one of my favorite days of the week. Like as far as podcasting days and performance days, this is my favorite day. Wise and I talked about yesterday. He feels the same way about Fridays. It's a day that you guys get up and do mentality. So the centerpiece is you, bro. Just the energy that you bring, the preparation you do. It's like you feed him bullets, and he knocks up. And the same here. It's like you're throwing me curveball, or throwing me fastballs, and I'm knocking them over the fence. So either way, it's all centered around you and the stuff that you bring too. So, the rest of us are as good as what we're able to feed off from the other one. You're feeding off us. We're feeding off you. We're doing it together, teamwork.
That's right.
And, where we're at 15 weeks from now is a testament to both of us, but to the viewership as well. And, there's definitely many goals to definitely set in place for 2024 and looking forward to it, setting them up with you and knocking them down just like we've knocked down the ones that we got here. So, but it all starts with you guys in the comments.
Thank you, guys.
Liking, subscribing to both of our channels, commenting. We greatly appreciate it. Keep it going. Bring in some new people as well. Spread the word.
Yes.
Let's get this thing going even more. But hey, I'm so happy with what we've done so far. The year's almost over, but this show is not.
No, it's not. Now, this episode is, but this show is not. Now, if you want to reach Drew, you can find him on _media on Twitter or X and Instagram as well. And Sotoba Media on I think it's Instagram. But yes, you can find him on those. And you can find me at flowcode.com/page/host Cole Johnson. That's flowcode.com/page/host Cole Johnson. Now, I want to thank all of you, definitely. Thank you for liking, sharing, subscribing. Definitely tell a friend to tell a friend and bring them on board. And thank you for hitting that notification bell so you can catch all content, not just this program, but all that emanates from the Sotoba Media YouTube channel or the Comey Media YouTube channel as well. For Drew Willingham, I am Cole Johnson, here to say parting as we always do in life. Just like a tackle, keep your head up. And always remember, you got to play until the whistle blows. We'll be back at our normal time next week. So long, everybody.
And stay safe out here in these streets.
Again, normal time. See ya.